Chapter 52:20. Hearing Fairy Hongxia's calm voice, Xiaohua did not dare to disobey and hurriedly released his arms. As expected, Wuxia and the rest were nowhere to be seen. Fairy Hongxia said indifferently, "What I said is true. We really can't go back to the past." Xiaohua looked at Fairy Hongxia, as though he was trying to see into her heart. However, after a long while, Xiaohua finally let out a sigh. Following his sigh, Wuxia, Li Zongbao, and the rest appeared again. "Spiritual Master Xiao." Fairy Hongxia bowed and said, "Junior and the rest will take our leave." "Io." Xiaohua was about to raise his hand when he suddenly thought of something and hurriedly said, "Don't worry, your husband still has something to tell you." "Spiritual Master Xiao, please speak." Fairy Hongxia frowned and asked in a low voice. "This matter is related to your Ice Phoenix bloodline, and the bloodline of the Kai family," Xiaohua said as he looked at Wuxia, Li Zongbao and Hung Li and explained, "Senior Li, can I trouble you to wait here for a few days?" "Okay." Wuxia rushed to answer and blinked her eyes at Xiaohua. Fairy Hongxia was a little hesitant, but she believed that Xiaohua would not have any other thoughts, so she nodded in the end. After Fairy Hongxia nodded, she felt the light and shadow around her change. In an instant, she was at the peak of a snowy mountain with Xiaohua. Xiaohua took out the peacock plume of Divine Mother Peacock and the ancient bloodline from the Legacy Realm and handed them to Fairy Hongxia. "Hongxia, this is the peacock plume of Divine Mother Peacock. This is the ancient Phoenix bloodline." "Ah?" Fairy Hongxia was so shocked that she was speechless. "You have just condensed the blood essence. I was thinking of giving it to you in the future. Since you want to leave, I can only give it to you now. I will help you refine these first," Xiaohua said. "It can be considered as giving you some confidence to be proud." Fairy Hongxia looked at the unique opportunity in front of her and shook her head. "Spiritual Master Xiao, I don't want to receive more from you. He, this is your own opportunity. Given to you by Divine Mother Peacock of the Demon Realm." Xiaohua laughed. "This has nothing to do with me." "Oh, I understand." Fairy Hongxia nodded. "That's what you just said. You've been to the 10,000 Demon Realm, and Divine Mother Peacock is in the 10,000 Demon Realm." "Yes, so you don't have to think too much about it," Xiaohua explained. "I only brought it to you because I was afraid that something might happen in the future, so I helped you refine it today." Fairy Hongxia pondered for a moment and said seriously, "Darling Xiao, you have to give me time. Don't overthink it," Xiaohua said with a smile. "Refine your bloodline first." Although Xiaohua had a smile on his face, he felt extremely bitter in his heart. Now he lacked nothing but time. If he could, he would bitterly smile at Fairy Hongxia and say, "Wife, I really don't have time." 10 days later, Xiaohua and Fairy Hongxia appeared in front of Li Zongbao and the rest again. However, Fairy Hongxia was not held by Xiaohua as Wuxia had expected. However, Wuxia could clearly see the joy in Fairy Hongxia's eyes. What was more, the sadness in Fairy Hongxia's eyes was not the same as 10 days ago. "Xiaohua, let's go." Fairy Hongxia flew away from Xiaohua, nodded at Wuxia and said to Xiaohua. Li Zongbao naturally heard the difference in the way she addressed him, and his heart was slightly relieved. However, after a moment, Li Zongbao asked again, "Oh right, junior brother Xiao, there were too many things before, so I didn't ask about Xiao Mao." "Io." Xiaohua also woke up and slapped his forehead, smiling bitterly. "If senior brother Li didn't mention it, I would have forgotten." As he spoke, Xiaohua took out the Kunlun mirror. As he activated it, Xiao Mao and Hitorigami flew out from it. Xiao Mao had just flown out and immediately released his spiritual sense. When he saw Li Zongbao beside him, he was stunned. Only Hitorigami roared and blocked Fairy Hongxia. Obviously, Xiao Mao had already instructed him to do so. "Junior brother Xiao." Xiaohua held back his excitement and called out softly, Big brother?" Xiao Mao turned around in shock. When he saw Xiaohua's familiar face, shame appeared on his face. He hurriedly knelt down and said, "Big brother, I was wrong. Big brother, please punish me." Xiaohua smiled and helped Xiao Mao up, saying, "Who can be wrong in their life? As long as you stick to your principles and don't lose your heart, you can know your mistakes and change. And didn't you see? Fairy Hongxia is also fine. You were just schemed against by Yutong and Yuan." There's also Luo Xingtian and Qing Liuzi. Xiao Mao gritted his teeth and said, their conspiracy is not shallow. They intend to take over the entire cultivation world. Xiao Hua nodded and said, isn't that simple? After speaking, Xiao Hua turned to the Black Bear spirit and said, Black Bear. Master, I'm here. The Black Bear spirit hurriedly bowed and said, take a group of disciples to Dantong City and capture Qing Liuzi and the others. Interrogate them about the conspiracy with Luo Xingtian. Yes, I'll go right away. The Black Bear spirit received the order and moved away. Big brother, Xiao Mao said anxiously, Luo Xingtian is a void refinement cultivator. We have to slowly. Luo Xingtian has already been killed by Big Brother. Xiao Hua said with a smile. It's just that he was killed too hastily and didn't ask the whole story. Qing Liuzi connived with Chani to attack us back then. He should have died long ago. Huh? Xiao Mao was dumbfounded. He looked at Xiao Hua in disbelief, feeling as if he had missed something. Fairy Hongxia said, Junior brother Xiao, thank you so much for the matter of Sky Patrol City this time. I have to leave first. If you want to leave, we might as well go together. If you want to catch up with Xiao Hua, then stay for a few more days. Senior sister. Xiao Mao was even more dumbfounded. He said curiously, Big brother is back. If you don't stay by his side, where are you going? It's lonely to be by Taoist Master Zhao's side. Fairy Hongxia smiled and said, I have to go somewhere else to bask in the sun first. Junior brother Xiao. Xiao Hua said, don't be in a hurry to leave, I still have something to entrust you. Okay. Xiao Mao nodded and looked at Xiao Hua calmly bidding farewell to Fairy Hongxia. He was extremely puzzled. He even sent a voice transmission to Li Zongbao, but Li Zongbao only smiled bitterly and shook his head without replying. Fellow Taoist Xiao, the one who was concerned about Fairy Hongxia, was naturally her sister. Before leaving, Wuxia sent a voice transmission to Xiao Mao. Fairy Hongxia has been spoiled since she was young. You have to bear with her. Looking at her appearance, it won't be long before she changes her mind. You have to wait a little longer. Xiao Hua smiled slightly, but his smile was full of bitterness. Big brother. After everyone left, Xiao Mao released his divine sense to check the surroundings and asked curiously, where is this place? Who are those cultivators? This is naturally the Sky Patrol City. Xiao Hua explained. It's just that after a big battle, the surrounding 10,000 li of Sky Patrol City was destroyed. Now this place has become the location of our Fortune Gate. These are the Fortune Gate's disciples? Xiao Mao said in disbelief. Big brother is not joking with me, right? When did the Fortune Gate's disciples become so strong? These are the Fortune Gate's disciples that Big brother brought back from other places. Xiao Hua said. You will know the specific situation in the future. Big brother asked you to stay behind to ask about the Yi clan. Little brother remembers. Xiao Mao seemed to have woken up from a dream and cried out, Big brother, it was you who saved little brother, right? Then, Yi Shixiang, Yu Tong, Yun Jichong and the others? They are all dead. Xiao Hua patted Xiao Mao's shoulder and said, they racked their brains but in the end they still made a wedding dress for you. Don't worry, you can't conceive a nascent soul. It's not that your aptitude is lacking, but it's because of your bloodline. You don't have to cultivate a nascent soul technique, or golden core anymore. The four spirits blood curse that Yu Tong laid down has already strengthened your bloodline. Your soul technique should be several times stronger than ordinary soul cultivators. Oh right, Big brother has to congratulate you in advance. As he spoke, Xiao Hua looked at Hamba. He didn't know where to start because he knew that Xiao Mao had a Dao companion named Qin Jian. Her name is Hua Hong. Xiao Mao's face was slightly red as he said in a low voice, Qin Jian's name is Yi Jian. She was sent by the Yi clan to monitor little brother. Haha, that's great. Xiao Hua waved his hand and took out a storage pouch. Hua Hong, come over here. Hua Hong was naturally different from Xiao Mao. She had long sensed the demonic beast race's great saint aura on Xiao Hua's body. Hearing Xiao Hua's order, she obediently flew over and knelt on the ground. Xiao Hua raised his hand and sent a strand of meridians into Hua Hong's forehead. Hua Hong's body trembled for a long time before calming down. She opened her mouth and cried oh as she kowtowed desperately. Xiao Hua handed the storage pouch to Huahong and said, "There are rejuvenation pills inside, and also things for ordinary demonic beast race and soul cultivators. Take the rejuvenation pills and you will be able to speak soon. This old man's little brother will be in your hands." "NN." Huahong nodded desperately. "Get up." Xiao Hua helped Huahong up, then took out the Yilin mainland's Yi family patriarch's token from his space and handed it to Xiao Mao. "Big brother wanted to ask about the Yi family's situation, but I suddenly remembered that you are the Yi family's bloodline. The Yi family's patriarch Yi Yaotian, actually Yi Shixiang, has been killed by Big Brother. This is the Yi family's patriarch's token on the Yilin mainland. All Yi family's disciples must obey his orders." "Ah." Xiao Mao didn't dare to accept the token. He waved his hand and said, "Big brother, you don't know, but the Yi family's foundation is not only the Huan country's enlightenment manor. They have branches in all 3 countries. How can little brother convince them with my strength?" Xiao Hua stuffed the token into Xiao Mao's hand and said, "If Big brother says you can, then you can. Now Big brother has the final say on the Dawn Rain mainland. If there is anything you can't handle, you can send a message to my fortune gate." As he spoke, Xiao Hua gave his token to Xiao Mao. Xiao Mao understood that Xiao Hua wouldn't harm him. Moreover, this was definitely a great opportunity. However, he really didn't understand what was going on. He was confused. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support. Vote for a monthly vote. Vote for a recommendation vote. Bookmark. Tip. And thank you for all forms of support. Thank you to 375665 for your tip. Happy Mid-Autumn Eve. Chapter 52:21. Xiao Hua saw the anxiety on Xiao Mao's face and said with a smile, "You don't have to rush to the Enlightenment Manor. Help Big Brother here. After you figure out the situation, let the Fortune Gate's disciples send you there." "Okay." Xiao Mao nodded quickly. "How can little brother help Big Brother?" Xiao Hua, who had been standing close to Huang Xiaolong, said, "We're going to build a Fortune Dao Palace here. Moreover, there will be a lot of news about the Xiantian Grand Array. Our Fortune Gate's gate chiefs are not familiar with the Dawn Rain mainland, so you can help them sort out the news." After saying that, Xiao Hua called Li Xiang over and took Xiao Mao away. After that, Xiao Hua pondered for a moment, then turned around and gave a few orders. Feng Wu, Huang Tong, and the others flew over and left with Ying Kuei. The snow region to the north of Shi country was vast. Even with the flying boat, the Kunlun sect's disciples couldn't fly far in 10 days. Not to mention, Xianjing's flying boat had Reverend He Ping and Fairy Fei Yen of the Black Heaven sect. At this time, the 3 of them were sitting at the bow of the flying boat. Although there was a jade table in front of them with some spiritual fruits and wine on it, the atmosphere was obviously cold and cheerless. Fairy Fei Yan's appearance was no longer the same as before. Her hair was white, and wrinkles had already climbed up her forehead and brows. Fairy Fei Yan frowned and looked at the absent-minded immortal He Ping. Then she turned to look at Xianjing, who seemed to be resting with his eyes closed. She gritted her teeth and said, "Fellow cultivator Xianjing, the Kunlun sect, the Utopia faction, and the Xiantian sect are all famous sects in the Lian Kingdom. Although the Kunlun sect is not as powerful as the Xiantian sect and the Utopia faction, the Xiantian sect and the Utopia faction have never underestimated the Kunlun sect." Today, the Fortune Gate's Taoist Xiao arrived and led the Fortune Gate's Iron Army to sweep across the Dawn Rain mainland. "We have already investigated and found out that your Kunlun sect was the first to send disciples to the Sky Patrol City. Moreover, you were the first to support Taoist Xiao after he killed the Devil Clan. Especially, you were the first to tell Taoist Xiao about the Kunlun sect's Kunlun secret land and asked him to go there. If there isn't anything strange about it and there are secrets that we don't know about, we definitely won't believe it." Taoist He Ping didn't know how many times he released his spirit sense to check the airship. After hearing Fairy Fei Yan's words, Taoist He Ping finally withdrew his spirit sense. He looked at Xianjing and sighed. "Xianjing, you must have received a message from Starfall Sky?" Unfortunately, Xianjing closed his eyes and did not make a sound. Fairy Fei Yin raised her eyebrows and nodded. "I don't know if fellow Taoist Xianjing received it or not, but I did. However, when I received the message, I had already thought of the 2 fellow Taoists and knew that the 2 of you would receive the same message. However, I also believe that you two fellow Taoists will choose to ignore this message just like I did. After all, the Ripple Nation is the Ripple Nation of our sex, not the Ripple Nation of the Immortal Alliance. If we act according to the arrangements of the Starfall Sky, we will definitely fall into his trap in the future. The sex of the Ripple Nation will definitely send their generals and sex. Taoist He Ping nodded. Fairy Fei Yin is right. I also received a message from Starfall Sky. Of course, the Utopia faction doesn't have Taoist Xianqing, the leader of the Immortal Allies. The Utopia faction doesn't dare to confront Starfall Sky. Therefore, when I received the message from Starfall Sky like Fairy Fei Yin, I thought of the two fellow Taoists. When I wanted to go to Kunlun Mountain in person, I received the message that the two fellow Taoists were going to Sky Patrol City. Therefore, I immediately took my disciples to chase after the two fellow Taoists. Seeing that Fairy Fei Yin and Taoist He Ping had been lobbying like this every day for the past 10 days, Xianjing was a little helpless. He seemed to have understood and opened his eyes. Taoist He Ping, why do you have to talk about I here? Why do you release your spirit sense every day? Are you waiting for Heng Zhao to come back? Why do you leave Heng Zhao in Sky Patrol City? What kind of information do you want to get? We're all discerning people, so there's no need to talk nonsense. You're much stronger than I now. Li Zongbao, who was abandoned by your Utopia faction a long time ago, turns out to be Taoist Zhao's best friend. Didn't you see? Li Zongbao and Fairy Hongxia were together, and they were protected by the Black Bear Spirit of the Fortune Gate. Who is the Black Bear Spirit? It's said that Taoist Zhao's most trusted spirit beast guarding the abode, Feng Shu of the Immortal Ascension sect and Chan Si Miao of the Xianlu sect were killed by the Black Bear Spirit. This shows how important Li Zongbao is in Taoist Zhao's heart. If you want to get something, you might as well go to Taoist Zhao. Alas! Taoist He Ping sighed and replied, speaking of Zongbao, I feel a little guilty. I watched him grow up and had high hopes for him. Now, many disciples of the Utopia faction who were not as good as him have reached the nascent soul stage. However, he has been stuck at the late stage of the gold core stage without any progress. Before Taoist He Ping finished, Xianjing waved his hand impatiently and said, that was before. Now Taoist Zhao is back. Li Zongbao is Taoist Zhao's good friend, and Taoist Zhao has countless skills. At this point, Xianjing suddenly stopped, for he realized that he had spilled the beans. Taoist He Ping didn't care, but Fairy Fei Yin looked at Xianjing meaningfully and said with a smile, fellow cultivator Xianjing, how do you know that Taoist Zhao has countless skills? Do you still need to ask? Xianjing immediately replied, Taoist Zhao taught for a whole night. Others have a shallow foundation and may not gain much. You and I have gained a lot, so it's not necessary to point it out, right? Moreover, Taoist Zhao also said that he is already the supreme master of the human clan, and has reached the crossing calamity stage. If he doesn't have any skills, how can others have them? At this point, Xianjing added, the reason why I invited him to the secret realm of my Kunlun Mountain is to use the benefits of the secret realm to exchange for his skills with Taoist Zhao. Seeing that Xianjing was stubborn, Fairy Fei Yin was also helpless. She could only settle for the second best and said, alas, yes. It's just a night of teaching, but it's really more than 100 years of meditation. I have already sensed the loosening of the bottleneck. After returning to the sect, I will go into seclusion and hand over the sect's affairs to Jiuyu. I need to quickly calm down and cultivate. If there are no accidents, I will definitely be able to break through within 10 years. Then congratulations, fellow cultivator. Xianjing cupped his hands and said, I may be a little weaker than you, so I can't comprehend as much as you. I estimate that I can't go into seclusion for a few years. Is that so? Could it be that your Kunlun sect has something else to do that delayed your seclusion? Fairy Fei Yin probed. She looked at Xianjing trying to see something. Taoist He Ping didn't have the mood to ask more. He released his divine sense again. But at this time in the sky above the flying boat, a wave of space ripples gushed out like a fountain. After the light intertwined, Xiao Hua and the others flew out from the void. After Taoist He Ping, Xianjing, and Fairy Fei Yin noticed, they didn't dare to neglect. They hurriedly flew out of the flying boat and rushed into the sky. They said respectfully, greetings, Supremes. Oh, you are also here. Xiao Hua was a little surprised. He looked at Taoist He Ping and Fairy Fei Yan, and then his gaze fell on Xianjing. He said with a smile, "Fellow Taoist Xianjing, I want to go to Kunlun Mountain to see the secret realm. I wonder if you can go ahead with me?" "Of course." Xianjing got up and hurriedly replied, "Junior will listen to Taoist Zhao's orders." "Good, then we will go now." Xiaohua waved his Taoist robe and covered Xianjing. "Senior, we are also willing to go and give you advice on how to break the formation." Fairy Fei Yan shouted without hesitation. Xiaohua looked at Fairy Fei Yan and said with a smile, "Whether you can go or not, it is not up to me. It depends on fellow Taoist Xianjing." Xianjing thought for a moment and nodded. "In that case, you two fellow Taoists can come with us." Xiaohua turned to Huang Tong and Feng Wu and said, "Then I will have to trouble you two fellow Taoists." "No problem." Feng Wu and Huang Tong nodded in agreement. They waved their claws and took Taoist He Ping and Fairy Fei Yan. They flapped their wings and followed Xiaohua again. In the main hall of Kunlun Mountain, Fuyuazi was still standing on the side of the jade table, looking down with excitement. Although there were not as many people in the main hall as before, the atmosphere was obviously much more lively. Taoist Xing Hui's face was full of joy, and he was talking to the cultivator next to him. If it was normal, Fuyuazi would have stopped Taoist Xing Hui, who was obviously talking loudly, but at this time he only looked at him with a smile and did not make a sound. Of course, there were also people who did not understand what was going on. They stood behind Taoist Xing Hui and listened carefully. However, the more they listened, the more confused they were. There were 3 or 4 such cultivators. They listened for a moment and looked at each other. One of them said respectfully, "Ancestor Fuazi, what good thing has happened to my Kunlun sect? Disciple and others were originally training outside. We just had some opportunities and received an order from the sect leader to ask all disciples to return to Kunlun Mountain quickly." Disciple and others did not dare to delay and hurried back. "Now that we are standing in this main hall and listening for a long time, why can't Disciple understand? Since the sect leader has issued the sect leader's order, where did he go? You can't always be here talking in riddles, right?" Fuyuazi looked at the cultivator and said with a smile, "Yao Su, it's not that I deliberately hide it, but because of the sect leader's secret order and the Supreme Elder's strict order, before this matter is settled, we must not leak it. Of course, let's not talk about this for now. The matter of Sky Patrol City. Could it be that you didn't hear about it?" The late-stage golden core cultivator named Yao Su looked at the few disciples with similar cultivation next to him. There was confusion in their eyes, so Yao Su smiled and said, "Okay, Ancestor knows. Disciple and others only have the golden core bottleneck in our eyes now. Every day we are thinking hard about how to break through. As for the matter of sword cultivation, Disciple and others really don't know. Moreover, Disciple and others just hurried back last night and did not see any cultivators along the way. We don't know what happened." P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support. Vote for a month. Vote for a recommendation, collect, reward, and thank you for all forms of support. Happy birthday to Alliance Leader, Little Jianjian. Chapter 52-22. Immortal Xing Hui also stopped talking and smiled. "That's right. The cultivators of the 3 kingdoms have all gone to Sky Patrol City. Even our Kunlun sect only has less than 50% of our disciples left to guard the mountain. No wonder you can't meet other cultivators." Hiss! Yao Su and the rest gasped and said in surprise, "Uncle Master Xing Hui, could it be a sword battle?" Immortal Xing Hui did not know whether to laugh or cry. "Yao Su, you're thinking too much." Before Reverend Xing Hui could finish speaking, a powerful divine sense swept over from outside the hall. Everyone's expression turned cold when they sensed it, and they respectfully turned to the entrance of the hall and saluted respectfully. Disciple respectfully welcomed Supreme Elder. As soon as everyone finished speaking, an old man who looked about 60 years old walked in from outside the hall. This old man had a simple face and his forehead was slightly bulging. Under his pair of thick eyebrows, his bright eyes were like the stars in the sky. The old man's gaze swept across the main hall and walked up to the high platform of the main hall. Behind the old man, Gu Yunzi also walked in and stood respectfully beside Immortal Xing Hui. Immortal Xianqing sat on the jade chair that Xianjing usually sat on. Everyone saluted respectfully. "Disciple greets Grand Supreme Elder." Don't be so polite. Immortal Xianqing seemed to be a little impatient. He waved his hand and looked at Fuzi as he said, "Where's Xianjing? Is there any news from Sky Patrol City? When will they be back?" Fuzi smiled bitterly in his heart but did not dare to show it. He only replied respectfully, "Grand Supreme Elder, after our Kunlun sect team left Kunlun Mountain, there are messenger disciples sending messages from both sides of the team in Kunlun Mountain every day." Immortal Xianqing was impatient and frowned. "I know this. I only want to know about Xianjing and the rest." Fuzi did not dare to neglect and hurriedly replied, "There was news from 10 days ago saying that they were close to Sky Patrol City. I think the other news is still in the transmission array. The cultivation level of our Xiaoyu continent is too weak." Immortal Xianqing sighed. "If it's like Yilin continent, the news from Sky Patrol City will be sent back to Kunlun sect." Yilin continent? Yao Su was stunned. He looked at Immortal Xianqing in confusion. He didn't understand where this Yilin continent was. Fuzi smiled apologetically and said, "Elder is right. You are the number 1 person in our Dawn Rain continent, but you're only at the body integration realm right now. Moreover, Fuyu Immortal Union is only a small part of the 72 immortal unions of the Heaven Alliance. Moreover, Luo Xingtian is an unknown member of Fuyu Immortal Union. When he came to our Dawn Rain continent he caused a huge wave. How can our Dawn Rain continent compare to the Yilin continent? The Lost Land. It is indeed a place forgotten by the Dao sect." Taoist Master Xianqing sighed. Suddenly he realized something and hurriedly said, "Oh right. I'm no longer the strongest person on the Dawn Rain continent. From now on don't mention it in advance. Otherwise the Fortune Gate will laugh at you." "Yes, yes." Fuzi quickly nodded and replied. Yao Su was completely confused and asked curiously, "Grand Elder, you're already a conjoint body expert. Why aren't you the number 1 person of Dawn Rain continent yet? What does this have to do with the motley crew of the Fortune Gate?" Taoist Master Xianqing glared at him and wanted to say something. However, he swallowed his words and waved his hand. "I don't have time to talk to you about this. If you have time, go ask Xinghui and the others." Speaking of this, Taoist Master Xianqing turned his head and asked Fuzi, "Oh right, is the selection of disciples going smoothly?" At the mention of the selection of disciples, even Fuzi couldn't help but be happy. He lowered his voice and said, "The selection of disciples is several times better than what I thought. So far." Fuzi deliberately lowered his voice, but everyone in the hall still heard it clearly. Yao Su, who was in the dark, almost jumped up from the ground when he heard it, because according to Fuzi, the number of disciples recruited this time was more than 10 times more than before. Moreover, the Kunlun sect had sent many disciples to the state of Shi and the state of Lian to look for children of suitable age. Yao Su wanted to open his mouth and ask, but when he saw Taoist Master Xianqing's smile, he tactfully shut his mouth. Looking at Taoist Master Xinghui, who was somewhat proud, Yao Su knew that Taoist Master Xinghui must know the truth. Just as he was about to ask, Gu Yunzi in front of him said with a worried face, "Grand Elder, you went to the state of Shi to pick up the disciples. Did you consume a lot of your lifespan?" This disciple heard that the elder of the Imperial Thunder sect used the Thunder Escape to come to our Kunlun mountain. He died as soon as he returned to the Imperial Thunder sect. "Oh." Fuzi was stunned and stopped talking. As if he thought of something, he was surprised and hurriedly asked, "Grand Elder." The smile on Taoist Master Xianqing's face didn't disappear. He said, "This old man has lived long enough." Previously, this old man had been worried about the Kunlun sect and the Immortal Alliance. After all, Luo Xingtian was aggressive and wanted to control the Immortal Alliance. He wanted to extend his hand to the 3 kingdoms of cultivation. He hit too deeply and planned too early. This old man found out that it was too late. Now, with Taoist Master Zhao's strength, he easily killed Luo Xingtian. Oh, it is said that there is also the Fortune Gate. In front of Taoist Master Xiao and the Fortune Gate, Luo Xingtian and his henchmen are really nothing. Therefore, this old man doesn't have to worry about the Immortal Alliance and the Dawn Rain continent anymore. My Kunlun sect has also received the favor of Taoist Master Xiao, and has long been ahead of other sections. Now my Kunlun sect's strength may still be in the upper middle level of the main kingdom, But in more than 100 years, our strength will definitely surpass the Xiantian sect and the Utopia faction and become the leader of the Ming Kingdom. With such a prospect, what is this old man worried about? Although Taoist Master Xianqing didn't mention his lifespan, Gu Yunzi heard it and sighed. Alas, it's all my fault. I only wanted to confirm those cultivation jade slips with the Grand Elder and forgot about this matter. With that, Gu Yunzi raised his hand and took out a peach of immortality from his storage bag. He respectfully offered it and said, Grand Elder, this is the spiritual fruit that Taoist Master Shao gave to me. According to him, it can make up for my lifespan. I have just stepped into the nascent soul stage, and I still have a long lifespan. You can take it first. Taoist Master Xianqing's eyes lit up, but he looked at the peach of immortality and smiled. How many of these do you have? I didn't know at that time. I thought he was joking with me, so I have already taken 2. Gu Yunzi felt very embarrassed. He did think so that day, and the peach of immortality tasted good, so he only had 1 left. This old man is old, and it is difficult for me to improve my cultivation. Don't waste it. Taoist Master Xianqing thought for a moment and said, Leave this spiritual fruit to Xianjing. Fu Yuezi hurriedly persuaded, Grand Elder, you are the backbone of our Kunlun sect, you. Everyone naturally came to persuade him, but Taoist Master Xianqing was unwilling to take it. At this time, several tyrannical auras ignored the defensive array of the Kunlun sect and the restriction of the main hall, and fell on Taoist Master Xianqing and others. If it was before, everyone would be shocked, but today everyone was ecstatic. Taoist Master Xianqing jumped up from the jade chair and shouted, Fu Yuezi, quickly! Ring the golden bell to welcome Taoist Master Shao to our Kunlun mountain. Unfortunately, before Fu Yuezi flew out of the main hall, everyone saw several lights and shadows flashing in the main hall, and several huge auras had been revealed. Wasn't it Taoist Master Shao Hua with a smile on his face? Taoist Master Xianqing didn't dare to neglect. He tidied up his robe and bowed. Junior Xianqing greets Taoist Master Shao. Disciples of Kunlun sect greet Taoist Master Shao. Fu Yuezi, Gu Yunzi, and Taoist Master Xing Hui hurriedly followed and bowed respectfully. Of course, although Feng Wu and others didn't make a sound, everyone was bowing to them. Xiaohua looked around and raised his hand with a smile. Everyone, please rise. You don't have to be polite. Today I came to ask Kunlun sect for help. Senior, you are too polite. Taoist Master Xianqing looked at Xianjing beside Xiaohua and said, You were personally invited by the head of Kunlun sect. Xiaohua was about to introduce Feng Wu and others, but he saw the peach of immortality in Gu Yunzi's hand. Xiaohua smiled slightly. He knew that Gu Yunzi deliberately didn't put it away, so he asked knowingly, Gu Yunzi, what are you doing with the peach of immortality? Gu Yunzi was grateful, and he knew that Xiaohua wanted to help him. He hurriedly said respectfully, Taoist Master, my Kunlun sect's Grand Elder went to Shi country to welcome me, which caused his lifespan to elapse. I felt guilty and wanted to give the peach of immortality that Senior gave me to Grand Elder, but he said that the peach of immortality was precious and he wanted to leave it for the head of Xianjing. If Taoist Master Xianqing modestly declined in front of Xianjing, it would inevitably make Xianjing think otherwise. But Taoist Master Xianqing declined behind his back, which made Xianjing's heart burn. He didn't have time to ask Xiaohua and others to sit down, but knelt down and said, Grand Elder, you are the foundation of Kunlun sect. As long as Kunlun sect has you, the disciples will feel at ease. If you don't take the peach of immortality, how can we dare to eat it? Get up quickly. Taoist Master Xianqing didn't expect Gu Yunzi and Xianjing to be like this. He was also relieved, but he hurriedly raised his hand and helped Xianjing up. He said kindly, You are already the head of Kunlun sect, but you are still so willful. Don't let Taoist Master Shao and others laugh at you. Shua. The word willful reminded Xianjing of the teachings of Taoist Master Xianqing when he was young. He couldn't help but cry. Gu Yunzi had some thoughts, but the feelings of the people of Kunlun sect were real. Xiaohua smiled, waved his hand and said, The Taoist sects in the world are one family. I am your elder, so how can I laugh at your family? Although I don't have many of these spiritual objects here, it is enough for you to eat. Come, everyone has a share. One for each, Xiaohua said and waved his hand. A peach of immortality appeared in front of the eyes of the disciples of Kunlun sect, Fairy Fei Yan, Taoist Heping and others. Xiaohua thought for a while and looked at Ying Kuei. The last peach of immortality appeared in front of him. Xiaohua smiled and said to Gu Yunzi, Taoist Gu Yunzi, don't think about it. You have eaten too. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qijian. Vote for it, vote for it, vote for it. Give it as a reward. Thank you for all kinds of support. Chapter 52-23. Xiaohua's teasing made Gu Yunzi feel closer to Xiaohua. He spoke as if he was talking to his senior martial brother. He exaggeratedly put the peach of immortality into his storage pouch and said with a smile, then I'll have to quickly put this away. I'll only use it when my lifespan is near. Ha ha ha. Xiaohua laughed and didn't say anything more, but his eyes were looking at Ying Kuei. Ying Kuei took the peach of immortality with surprise in his eyes. After looking at it carefully, he looked at Xiaohua thoughtfully and sent a voice transmission. Little friend Xiao, this peach of immortality also belongs to immortal Emperor Go-chan from the Immortal Palace, right? Xiaohua didn't hide it and replied, yes, it belongs to the Immortal Palace. When I left that day, the Immortal Emperor gave me some. That's right, Ying Kuei said. There is also this thing in the Heavenly Emperor Palace. That year, I was lucky enough to taste it. With that, Ying Kuei put away the peach and didn't eat it. Senior, why don't you use it? Xiaohua asked curiously. Ying Kuei said with a smile, I've become a sinner in this life, so I'll leave it for the future. Xianjing was confident that he could advance to the spirit-severing stage within 10 years, so he didn't eat the peach. Instead, he watched Immortal Xianqing use it and said respectfully to Xiaohua, Thank you, Immortal Xiao. I'll ring the golden bell and set up a banquet in the Kunlun Palace to welcome you to my Kunlun sect. Fuyuezi was secretly lucky. At this time, after hearing Xianjing's words, he hurriedly flew out of the hall. At this time, Xiaohua's voice came, Don't make any ceremony. I don't have much time. Today, I came to the Kunlun sect to ask Immortal Xianqing and other disciples if there is any information about the innate formation. Second, I want to ask the sect leader to make an exception and enter the Kunlun secret land to see if there is any information about the innate formation or the method to refine the Kunlun mirror. Both Immortal Xianqing and Xianjing knew about the Kunlun secret land and the Kunlun mirror, so they were not surprised. However, Immortal Xianqing and Gu Yunzi looked at Xiaohua in confusion. They did not know what the innate formation was. Xianjing didn't need Xiaohua to say more, and then he raised his hand and said, These supremes of the Demon Clan and the Dragon Clan are also here for the catastrophe of the 3 continents. Greetings, supremes. Immortal Xianqing and the others came to a sudden realization and hurriedly bowed again. You're welcome. Taoist Witch and the others raised their hands and gestured. We have the heavy responsibility of saving the world. If you treat us respectfully, why don't you provide us with effective information? Immortal Xianqing closed his eyes and pondered for a moment. He looked at Xianjing awkwardly and asked, Xianjing, have you seen the records about the innate formation? Xianjing also shook his head and replied, When I returned from the Sky Patrol City, I have already recalled on the flying boat. Whether it is in the ancient books of the Kunlun sect or in the secret realm, I have never seen such a record of you. Sigh. Taoist Master Xianqing also sighed and said, To tell you the truth, Taoist Master Xiao, I have also never heard of any innate formation. As far as this junior knows, the east of Dawn Rain continent is the center of Tao cultivators, which is also the Defeat Oak Immortal Alliance. The west is the Kuai-He Ocean and the islands in the ocean. There's nothing else. It doesn't matter. Xiaohua smiled. Although this matter is urgent, who can think of the real information in such a hurry? Why don't you ask your disciples to take a look at your sect's ancient books? Yes. Xianjing nodded in agreement and hurriedly said to Fuazi, Fuazi, I's sect master's order should still be on the way. Now pass down the order again. Ask all the disciples of Linglin Palace to explore the ancient books in the sect with all their might from today onwards. Don't miss a single word. Fuazi raised his eyebrows and seemed to want to say something. However, when he looked at Fairy Fei Yan and Immortal He Ping, he swallowed his words. After bowing, he hurriedly left. Fairy Fei Yin and Immortal He Ping looked at each other with bitterness in their mouths. They knew that the Kunlun sect must be hiding something from them. Fairy Fei Yin hurriedly bowed and said, Taoist Master Xiao, since this junior has returned to Ming country, I will now send a message to the disciples in the sect and ask them to immediately explore the ancient books in the sect. When Immortal He Ping saw this, he also bowed and reported. Seeing that the two leaders were about to issue the order in the Kunlun palace, Xianjing looked at Gu Yunzi and whispered a few words to him. After getting a satisfactory answer, he smiled and took out 2 jade slips from his arms. Fairy Fian, fellow Taoist Heping, you and I are both from famous cultivation sects in Meng country, and you usually take care of my Kunlun sect. These 2 jade slips were originally given to my Kunlun sect by Zhenren Xiao. Now I will share them with you. Damn it! Fairy Fian cursed under her breath and took the jade slip. When she saw the contents, she was overjoyed. She then looked at Reverend He Ping, who was also overjoyed. Xiaohua smiled and said, This is the price I have to pay to enter the Kunlun mystic realm. Fellow Taoists, don't be jealous. How could Fairy Fian and Taoist Master He Ping dare to complain about Xiaohua? They hastily bowed and said, Junior thanks Taoist Xiao, thanks Taoist Xianjing. You don't have to thank I. Xianjing hurriedly waved his hand and said, Fellow Taoists, you don't have to issue the order here. Why don't you take advantage of my Kunlun sect's transmission array and rush back to the mountain gate now? First, you need to implement the selection of disciples, and second, you need to help Taoist Xiao confirm the information of the innate formation. Yes, we understand. Taoist He Ping and Fairy Fian knew that they were a step behind Xianjing, but after all, they were much earlier than Shi country and Lian country, so they were already eager to go back. Hearing Xianjing's words, they had already bowed happily and were about to leave. At this moment, Xiaohua suddenly raised his eyebrows and a happy expression appeared on his face. He raised his hand and took out the Kunlun mirror. His figure flashed and instantly flew out of the Kunlun palace. He still shouted, I'm sorry Taoist Xianqing. I've disturbed your Kunlun sect. What's wrong? Taoist Xianqing and others were greatly puzzled. They thought that Xiaohua suddenly left, so they looked at the celestial beings and others who were still in the main hall. Unfortunately, when they looked around, there were no figures of these supreme beings. Strange. Xianjing's face revealed a strange expression. He looked at Taoist Xianqing and said, Could it be that this disciple's words offended Taoist Xiao? Before his voice fell, woo-woo. Outside the main hall, a violent wind suddenly blew, and a kind of destructive aura smashed down like the sky collapsing. Not only was everyone's body blown away like duckweed, but even the restrictive spell in the Kunlun palace, which had been baptized by countless attacks for thousands of years, was also destroyed at this moment. On the top of the hall there was a rumbling sound. Obviously the hall had collapsed. Damn it! Xianjing and Taoist Xianqing cursed secretly. They finally understood the meaning of Xiaohua's words just now. Since the restrictive spell of the Kunlun palace had been destroyed and the hall had collapsed, then what about the mountain guarding formation of Kunlun Mountain? What about the other halls of Kunlun Mountain? The faces of the people of the Kunlun sect changed greatly. They struggled, and in the midst of the suffocating aura, they forced their bodies to fly out of the collapsed Kunlun palace. When they flew out of the main hall, they were shocked by the strange scene in front of them. Xiaohua flew out of the Kunlun palace with the Kunlun mirror in his hand. His figure flashed, and he had already passed through the sect guarding formation of Kunlun Mountain. When he appeared again, he was already tens of thousands of miles away in the sky. Xiaohua did not hesitate. He activated the Kunlun mirror in his hand, and a beam of light rushed out. The thunderbolt immortal flew out. After the thunderbolt immortal flew out, there was a huge rumbling sound in the void. Then, 5 magnetic fields of more than 3,650 acres in size appeared. As soon as these 5 magnetic fields appeared, the space in the vicinity of 10,000 miles was immediately distorted. Whether it was the void or the sky, whether it was space or time, layers of space storms and waves of time fragments were crazily born at the edge of the space in an instant, rolling and tearing everything and slowly rotating. Along with this strange scene in space, 5 huge rainbows appeared in the sky and on the ground 10,000 miles away. These rainbows had 5 colors: red, black, green, white, and yellow, which were the primary colors of the 5 elements. At the end of these huge rainbows there was a huge halo flashing. The shadows of the vermilion bird, the black tortoise, the azure dragon, the white tiger, and the qilin vaguely appeared, and a huge power shrouded an area of 10,000 miles, or even tens of thousands of miles. As for the end of the huge rainbows, it crossed the space and time barrier, turned into countless thin shadows, and fell on the 5 magnetic fields. Ing Kuei naturally teleported out with Feng Wu and the others. Seeing such a crazy strange scene, how could he not know what was going on? He cried out in surprise. A strange scene in the sky? The divine tool is formed. What kind of divine tool can this mortal world refine? Xiaohua looked at the thunderbolt immortal and smiled bitterly. In his opinion, the entire process of refining the 5 elements wishful heaven cudgel had to be carried out in space. After all, in space, the heavenly Tao Jade archive Xiaohua was almost omnipotent. Moreover, he had seen the strange scene caused by the refining of the 3 magnetic fields in the ruins. He knew that when the 5 elements wishful heaven cudgel was successfully refined, it would definitely attract the attention of others. Xiaohua, who had always kept a low profile, was still willing to carry out all of this quietly in space. The Thunderbolt Immortal shrugged and said helplessly, "Fellow Taoist, it's not that I don't want to keep a low profile, but to refine the 5 elements wishful heaven cudgel in space, there will definitely be some flaws that we don't know about. Rather than that, it's better to refine it in the Dawn Rain continent where the laws are complete. Previously, fellow Taoist has already sealed the heaven cudgel in the 5 elements wishful heaven cudgel, and I have already refined most of it. Only the last step is left, so it shouldn't cause too much of an impact on the Dawn Rain continent." Xiaohua pondered for a moment, and his gaze fell on the 5 magnetic fields and the sparks produced by the 5 cracks. At this time, the situation in the sky was extremely similar to that day in the ruins. Clusters of sparks were produced from the cracks. These sparks were different from ordinary flames, as they were condensed from strands of extreme magnetic light. Every time they were produced, the void would begin to distort, and then bring about strange fluctuations. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian. Give a monthly vote, a recommendation vote, a collection, a tip, and thank you for all kinds of support. Chapter 52-24. That day in the ruins, these waves were attracted by the magnetic force and completely fell into the magnetic force. Today, the clusters of sparks were several times bigger than before. The waves were also several times bigger than before. Only a small part of the waves fell into the magnetic force, most of them rushed into the surroundings and the void. These waves formed a storm that tore the void apart. The nearby sky and earth were affected. Although Xiaohua had already teleported, he couldn't fly too far due to the lack of time. Naturally, Kunlun Mountain was also affected. The waves were nothing. When the sparks flew out of the gaps, small phantoms of the vermilion bird, black tortoise, azure dragon, white tiger, and qilin appeared in the sky. They flew wantonly within the space of 10,000 miles. As they flew, the phantoms became more and more solid. After a while, the phantoms seemed to be tired and actually fell towards the center of the magnetic force. In the rainbow, countless halos flowed and rushed towards the center of the rainbow. The flow of the halos was like the entire world pouring into the center of the magnetic force. Countless profoundness, laws, and essence rushed into the space of 10,000 miles with the halos. High in the sky, huge ripples gradually appeared and went deep into the mysterious black hole. It was like the umbilical cord of the human race when they were pregnant. As for the earth, thousands of colors flowed in with the halos, and everything in the world quickly faded. Crack, crack. The laws of heaven and earth that Xiaohua was very familiar with descended at the same time. However, these laws were actually blocked by the space and time storm outside the space of 10,000 miles. They could only form a ring-shaped crown that rotated with the waves. Xiaohua frowned and looked at the ring-shaped thunderbolt rather puzzledly. The laws of heaven and earth were originally complete, so the ring-shaped ring should also be a complete circle. However, at this time the ring had many gaps in many places, and even some folds just like the spatial fault in the divine sense. Seeing that something was wrong, Xiaohua paid attention to other places again. Sure enough, he discovered the difference after a while. High in the sky, the 5 huge primordial forms of the 5 elements were also different from before. Among them, the phantoms of the white tiger and Qilin had many folds in the center, as if there was a big hand holding them. The vermilion bird, black tortoise, and azure dragon were normal. Nevertheless, Xiaohua had no time to examine them in detail. He hastily revealed his 10,000 feet tall avatar, sat down cross-legged and shouted, "Fellow Taoists, come and help me." Immediately, Xiaohua and Lightning Reverend also revealed their avatars and performed incantation gestures. Incantation gestures were cast, one after another. They landed on the gaps between the two magnetic forces and the two innate objects. Thunder rumbled, light and shadows flashed continuously, and the chaotic magnetic field gradually became orderly. In the space of 10,000 miles, the images of earth, fire, wind, and thunder gradually appeared. Fellow Taoist, eyes here to help. Reverend Yun, Taoist sorcerer Feng Wu, and the others exchanged a glance, then moved their bodies and landed between the gaps of the other three magnetic spheres. Reverend Yun had exercised the heavenly dragon speech magic. Not only were the dragon runes glowing with a golden light dancing wantonly in midair, but also the obscure rumbling that sounded like the roar of a dragon kept ringing out. Taoist sorcerer chanted some green seal script, which transformed into a powerful force of gods and ghosts and fell into the gaps. Green thunderbolts surged out strangely, hitting on the ripples like hammers. As for Feng Wu, a myriad of star runes emerged all over her body. Streams of the forces of the stars and the moon rushed out from the void, turning into stars and slamming into the flames and the gaps. Celestial, Huangtong, and Buddha Maitreya did not join the battle. Instead, they stood still in three different places, releasing their divine sense, and Buddhist consciousness, ready to face any unexpected changes. In order to avoid arousing suspicion, Ing Kuei did not approach them. He just stood far away, looking at the sky and the earth with a clear gleam in his eyes. His face was filled with a thoughtful expression, and even his brows were tightly knitted. It took Xiaohua and his clones 81 days to refine them. Dawn was breaking in the east, and a ray of sunlight could not overshadow the rainbow. In the space of 10,000 miles, the vermilion bird, black tortoise, azure dragon, white tiger, and Qilin had completely solidified. Their bodies were flashing with the primary colors of the 5 elements: red, black, green, white, and yellow. They were extremely dazzling, even more dazzling than the rising sun. What was special was that outside of the 5 elements, the several tens of feet of space had turned into a chaotic space. The previously chaotic space of 10,000 miles had now formed into 5 spaces of different colors, with a complete layer of earth, fire, wind, and thunder in the middle of each space. These 5 spaces were rotating in an orderly manner, and each of them was connected with the 5 colors of the rainbow. The 5 magnets had merged into one. Not only were the gaps gone, but the sparks had also disappeared. Only wisps of black and white waves pierced straight into the space like sharp swords. The halo in the sky was like an umbilical cord. The faded colors of the earth had also completely disappeared, and the space and time storm had also completely calmed down. Everything was going smoothly. Other than the white tiger and Qilin, the 2 5 elements primordial forms, which had many folds and magnets of the 5 elements in their bodies, the laws of heaven and earth had formed a ring-shaped thunderbolt. At this time, the ring-shaped thunderbolt was even larger, and it had almost completely covered the space of 10,000 miles. Because of this, the cracks and distortions were even more obvious. Xiaohua, Thunder Immortal, Immortal Yun, Taoist Witch, and Huangtong cast an incantation gesture. 5 streaks of clear light that looked like flowing water were produced from the 5 gaps. Then, they quickly crossed the 5 magnets of the 5 elements, crossed the space of 10,000 miles, and landed on the 5 elements' primordial forms: Roar, Ao, Mu, A, Wu. 5 earth-shattering roars came from the mouths of the 5 elemental primordial forms. The 5 elemental primordial forms slowly descended from the 5 directions towards the center of the rainbow. The space within 10,000 miles also slowly shrank as if a giant curtain was falling. Immediately, the ring-shaped thunderbolts fell one after another, even rapidly surpassing the rainbow and striking towards the center of the 5 elemental primordial magnetism. Everyone! Xiaohua took a deep breath. His hands flashed with a faint silver light as he said, "Success or failure depends on this." Good. Even Buddha Maitreya, the world-honored one, celestial being, and Huang Tong roared in unison. They each cast their divine abilities, and then Xiaohua Immortal Yun, Taoist Witch, Thunder Immortal, and Feng Wu cast the last incantation gesture. As soon as the incantation was cast, the dawn sky suddenly fell into darkness. The stars all over the sky turned blood red, and the sun and moon lost their light. An incomparable fierce light and evil aura gushed out of the darkness. Although it was invisible to the naked eye, Xiaohua and the others could see clearly that a huge staff that could pierce through heaven and earth was condensed in the fierce light and evil aura. Five Elements Wishful Staff. As the book immortal of the heavenly court, Ing Kuei was also shocked. Only now did he realize what Xiaohua was refining from the shape of the stick. An invisible hand was about to reach out from his throat. He could not help but shout wildly in his heart. Xiaohua is actually refining this kind of ancient weapon? The incantation gestures of Xiaohua and his doppelganger fell like 9 giant hands of heaven and earth. The 5 elements' primordial form shrank along with the rainbow, driving 5 layers of space and 6 layers of earth, fire, wind, and thunder to slowly fall into the magnetic field. Countless laws, light, shadows, and strange phenomena shrank and disappeared in the ring of thunderbolts, and some even shattered. Xiaohua and the others looked solemn. After the incantation gestures, they cast their divine abilities again and again to resist the circular thunderbolts. Streams of immortal energy, thunderbolts, stars, dragon marks, power of faith, power of the underworld, and power of souls came and went in an orderly and powerful manner, blocking the laws of heaven and earth. At this moment, Xiaohua could see clearly that the white tiger and the qilin, who were close to the center of the magnetic field, were not wrinkled. They were exactly the same as the other 3 5 elements primordial forms. Even the thunderbolts formed by the laws of heaven and earth did not show any distortion or break. Seemed very slow, but it was actually very fast. Under the persistence of Xiaohua and the others, the darkness between heaven and earth suddenly disappeared at some point. The blood-colored stars disappeared, and the sun and moon also revealed their brilliance. However, after the darkness was gone, the earth was covered in blood. Alas! An indescribable sigh sounded, as if heaven and earth were weeping. Swish! The blood-colored light followed the sigh into the distance. Rumble! A huge rumble sounded again. The staff fell into the magnetic field, and a huge staff that pierced through heaven and earth finally took shape. The thunderbolts also powerlessly disappeared between heaven and earth. Boom! A monstrous ominous aura gushed out from the huge staff, instantly covering the entire Dawn Rain continent. All the creatures were terrified. Of course, this aura was just a flash. Then a loud bang sounded. Under the huge staff, a crack that was more than 10,000 feet deep appeared and stretched for thousands of miles. It seemed that even the earth could not bear the 5 elements wishful heaven staff. Ha ha ha! Xiaohua laughed. He raised his hand, and a huge thunderbolt hand fell on the 5 elements wishful heaven staff. Small. As Xiaohua muttered in his heart, the 5 elements wishful heaven staff that could support heaven and earth turned into nearly 10,000 feet in size and fell into his hand. Xiaohua freely swung the staff, but the void shattered, unable to withstand the weight of the staff. Congratulations, fellow Taoist! The Thunderbolt Immortal and the others laughed and congratulated him. Haha, congratulations. Xiaohua laughed and said, "Thank you, fellow Taoists, for your help." While speaking, Xiaohua withdrew his Dharmakaya, and the wishful heaven staff also turned into several feet in size. Xiaohua held it in his hand and was reluctant to put it away. This real 5 elements wishful heaven staff was completely different from the previous heaven leveling staff. Holding it in his hand, he could use it as he pleased, and a kind of heroic spirit that could shatter heaven and earth could not help but be born. Congratulations, little friend Xiao. Ing Kuei flew over with a complicated expression and said, "With this thing, little friend can ascend to the immortal world and immediately become a hero." Haha, I dare not. Although Xiaohua was reluctant, he still took the staff and replied with a smile, "Today Junior was rash. If it was not for the fact that I could not refine this thing in the Kunlun immortal world, Junior would never show it in front of others." Actually, Ing Kuei hesitated and said, "Although this thing is sharp and invincible, it is also a very dangerous thing. However, it's also a very ominous creature. Little friend, you must be careful. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a monthly vote, vote for a recommendation vote, collect, reward and thank all forms of support. Chapter 52-25. So what? The Celestial sneered and retorted. It's better than your blood sacrifice. Inkue was embarrassed. He smiled and stopped talking. Alas, let's go. Xiaohua looked around and smiled bitterly. Let's not talk about this now. Let's give Kunlun sect an explanation first. Xiaohua and the others flew down. Kunlun Mountain was in a mess. The entire mountain range seemed to have been trampled by a giant. The mountain protection array had long collapsed, and the restrictive spells of all the palaces on the mountain had also collapsed. Half of the palaces had collapsed, and even a few mountains had collapsed. Seeing Taoist Xianqing and the others coming to welcome him, Xiaohua was embarrassed. He hurriedly bowed and said, Taoist Xianqing, I ask for your forgiveness. Taoist Xianqing felt bitter in his heart, but what could he say? Xiaohua had given too many benefits to Kunlun sect before, so much that he couldn't even say a harsh word. It's okay. Taoist Xianqing said with a smile. My Kunlun sect's protection array has been set up for many years. It's already old and should have been replaced. Oh. Xiaohua hurriedly took out a jade slip from his arms and handed it to Taoist Xianqing. I see that your array is the capital star array. There are many incomplete ones inside. I have a complete capital star array here. It's compensation. Taoist Xianqing was quite surprised. After taking a look at the jade slip, he was even more ecstatic. He hurriedly handed the jade slip to Xianqing and stuttered to Xiaohua. It's good that Taoist pushed it down. It's good that you pushed it down. Xiaohua was speechless. He looked at the mess in the distance and whispered, How about the Kunlun secret realm? Is it convenient for me to go in and look for information about the innate array? Of course. Taoist Xianqing didn't hesitate and hurriedly replied. During the time when Taoists sacrificially refined the magic weapon, I have already asked my disciples to search for it. They didn't find any traces of the innate array. If my Kunlun sect has records of this, I'm afraid it's only in the Kunlun secret realm. Then I'll have to trouble Taoist Xianqing. Xiaohua wasn't surprised by Taoist Xianqing's answer. The Kunlun secret land was located in the depths of the Kunlun Mountains. On a mountain peak that looked like a giant bird, Immortal Xianqing pointed at it and said, This mountain peak is called Kunwu Peak. According to the records of the sect, it was transformed from a celestial stone that fell from the immortal world in ancient times. The Kunlun secret realm was found inside the immortal stone. Oh! Xiaohua went into a daze. He instantly thought of the stacked jade legacy realm on the Dragon Island. Immortal Xianqing didn't notice Xiaohua's strangeness and still said, The Kunlun secret land is a bit strange. To enter it, you need the ancient token of our Kunlun sect. This token can only be used by one person at a time, and it can only be used once in 1,000 years. You came at the right time. Xianjing entered the Kunlun secret land exactly 1,010 years ago. Io. Xiaohua frowns and says, If this Xiao uses it today, then for the next 1,000 years, won't your Kunlun sect be unable to use it? Immortal Xianqing said with a smile, Senior, the things you gave to our Kunlun sect are 10 times more than what Xianjing and I got when we entered the Kunlun secret land. Our Kunlun sect doesn't have to enter for 1,000 years or even 10,000 years. Thank you so much, fellow Taoist. Xiaohua smiled slightly. In order to enter the Kunlun secret land, he spent a lot of money and gave Kunlun sect a lot of cultivation method jade slips. Immortal Xianqing hurriedly waved his hand and says, Senior is too polite. Not to mention those jade slips, just by the fact that Senior went in to find a way to crack the formation and save the billions of creatures in the 3 continents, our Kunlun sect will definitely let Senior in. Xiaohua didn't know whether Immortal Xianqing's words were true or not, but he knew that this was Kunlun Mountain. He didn't release his spirit sense. Feng Wu and the others also followed behind. When they landed on the Kunwu Peak before Immortal Xianqing could speak, they saw a gray ape rushing out from the rocks on the left side, blocking in front of Immortal Xianqing and Xiaohua. It raised its head, stretched out its arms and roared at everyone, as if to prevent them from approaching. Huh! Immortal Xianqing was stunned and looked at Xianjing. When did Kunwu Peak have a guardian spirit beast? Xianjing's face was also puzzled. He said with a smile, reporting to Grand Elder, "This junior is not too clear. Maybe it's the arrangement of the disciple on duty." Immortal Xianqing nodded and waved at the gray ape. "You get out of the way." Roar. The gray ape didn't seem to understand. It still blocked, not letting Immortal Xianqing pass. Xianjing smiled slightly and raised his hand to take out his token and handed it to the gray ape. "This is my token, you get out of the way." The azure ape took the token and looked at it carefully. It scratched its head with its thick claws, then looked at Xianjing. It blinked its eyes and returned the token to Xianjing. Then it roared a few times towards the sky and ran away happily. Kunwu Peak originally didn't have any spirit beast guarding it, only the ordinary disciple on duty patrolling. Presumably, because of the great changes in Kunlun Mountain these days, the disciple on duty had been exploring other places too much. There were some mistakes here. Since the gray ape appeared today, it also showed that Kunlun sect was very orderly. Xianjing and Immortal Xianqing's face were both bright. Immortal Xianqing smiled and raised his hand. "Immortal Xiao, please." Xiaohua followed Taoist Master Xianqing and flew low. Along the rugged mountain road, they arrived at a place that seemed to have been split open by a giant axe. However, when Xiaohua saw some faint fluctuations surging out from between the cracks of the stone, Xiaohua couldn't help but smile again. Because the gray ape that had just retreated was now holding a big stone in his hand, standing vigilantly in front of the stone crack. Xianjing was very surprised before, but he didn't say much. He raised his hand and handed the master's token to the gray ape. But this time it was beyond Xianjing's expectations. The gray ape took it, looked at it, and threw it on the ground. It waved the stone in its hand and roared a warning. "Damn it!" Xianjing was a little embarrassed. He released his spirit sense and whispered, "Which disciple is on duty today? Come out quickly." Unfortunately, there was no disciple on duty within the range of his spirit sense. Xiaohua and the others came to Kunwu Peak and didn't bring anyone else. At this time it was impossible to get someone to send a message. Xianjing pondered a little. He raised his hand and a golden light flashed, imprisoning the gray ape. He turned to Xiaohua and smiled. "This spirit beast is loyal, but after all, it's a little stupid. It's embarrassing." Xiaohua was just about to speak, but his face showed a strange expression behind Xianjing. Roar, roar, roar. A low roar came out. Looking at the gray ape imprisoned by Xianjing, it was struggling with all its strength. Its eyes were red, and there was a faint flame on the surface of its body. Xianjing's restriction that imprisoned the gray ape unexpectedly produced a flickering light and shadow, showing some signs of annihilation. "Oh!" Even Xianjing was a little surprised. He said curiously, "This spirit beast's strength is so great." Xianjing knew in his heart that although he didn't take the gray ape seriously and didn't use much magic power, this restriction was after all set up by a late nascent soul stage cultivator. How could an ordinary spirit beast break free? Saying this, Xianjing was about to raise his hand to imprison again, but at this time Xiaohua hurriedly shouted, "Wait!" Xianjing was puzzled and looked at Xiaohua. Xiaohua looked at the familiar flame of the gray ape, and the even more familiar arrogance in the gray ape's red eyes. Excitement appeared on his face and he said, "Damn it, how many years has it been? That bastard Mahavairakana broke his promise." Saying this, Xiaohua was just about to raise his hand and slap his forehead to open his Dharma eye when a faint whistling sound came from afar. Xiaohua withdrew his divine ability and turned his head to look like everyone else. He saw a blood-stained old man in a shabby Taoist robe hurriedly flying over. Looking at this old man, Xianjing seemed to think of something. He turned his head again and looked at the gray ape that was about to break free of the restriction. His face showed a thoughtful expression. Roar! The gray ape had already broken free of the restriction. Red flames gushed out of its body and an imposing aura was emitted. The stone in its hand was also raised high and it pounced at Xianjing with a roar. Ho Ming! The old man was naturally Ho Qing. When he saw the gray ape actually attack Xianjing, he was shocked. Without waiting for him to fly closer, he immediately shouted, "Quickly stop! Ayo!" The gray ape named Ho Ming heard Ho Qing's voice and howled in a low voice. It somewhat unwillingly put away the stone and looked at Ho Qing fly over with grievance. Disciple greets Grand Elder. Disciple greets Sect Leader. Disciple greets. Ho Qing's figure landed and respectfully saluted everyone. But when he saw Xiaohua, he didn't know how to address him. After all, he was just an ordinary disciple on duty. Where would he see Xiaohua? He didn't even know that Xiaohua had arrived. However, in just a few breaths, Ho Qing's eyes actually showed fanaticism. He suddenly knelt down and kowtowed. Disciple greets Taoist Master Xiao. Seeing Ho Qing kneel down, Ho Ming, who was beside him, also fell down beside Ho Qing and whimpered as he kowtowed. Seeing the gray ape Ho Ming, who was suspected to be the reincarnation of Yuan Tongtian, Xiaohua hurriedly helped them up and said with a smile, "Get up, disciple." Ho Qing still wanted to say something, but Xiaohua hurriedly gave him a look. Ho Qing was shocked and came to his senses. He bowed to Xianjing and said, "This is all disciple's fault. Disciple will go to the front mountain." He no need. Without waiting for Xianjing to speak, Taoist Master Xianqing laughed and said, "Looking at the bloodstains on your body, this old man knows what happened. Your spirit beast is also very loyal to its duty. You did not do anything wrong." "Yes, thank you Grand Elder for your sympathy." Ho Qing's heart relaxed. He looked at everyone and said respectfully, "Senior and others came to Kunwu Peak too. Taoist Master Xiao wants to enter Kunlun's secret land." Taoist Master Xianqing replied, "Since you are on duty, let the spirit beast on duty move aside." Yes, disciple understands." Ho Qing nodded and waved his token in front of Ho Ming. The gray ape grinned and threw the stone on the ground with a paw sound, and was about to run away. "Wait." Xiaohua used the primordial spirit sound transmission technique and said to Ho Ming, "This old man has something to tell you. Wait a moment." P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support, vote for a month, vote for a recommendation, collect reward. Thank you for all forms of support. Chapter 52-26. The Azure Ape Ho Ming's body shook as he looked at Xiaohua in disbelief. He pointed at Xiaohua with his thick ape claws and opened his mouth to call out a few times. Xiaohua nodded slightly, and the Azure Ape Ho Ming stood there as if he had been enlightened. Immortal Xianqing didn't know what happened, but he didn't dare to doubt what Xiaohua did. He respectfully pointed to the gap not far away and said, "Reporting to Immortal Xiao, that place is the Kunlun secret realm of my Kunlun sect. Senior." Xianjing hurriedly handed over a silver token respectfully and said, "This is the token to enter the secret realm. Without this, even my Kunlun sect disciples can't step into the secret realm." "Good." Xiaohua took the token and a familiar aura came from the token into Xiaohua's hand. Xiaohua looked at the outline of a continuous mountain range on the token, and seemed to understand something. Xiaohua walked to the gap and didn't rush to activate the token. Instead, he looked around and released his spiritual sense into the gap. He smiled and said, "I understand. If I'm not wrong, I may not use this token of your sect." "Is that so?" Immortal Xianqing raised his eyebrows and asked curiously, "Senior, did you find something?" "Yes." Xiaohua nodded and said, "If I'm not wrong, this secret realm should be a fragment of the immortal world. The immortal aura inside is rich, and there is a layer of barrier between the fragment and the Xiaoyu continent. Ordinary cultivators can't break this barrier and can only rely on your sex token." Speaking of this, Xiaohua didn't say anything more and just smiled. Of course, this is also Zhao's guess. Everything will be known after entering. The left and right tokens are already in Senior's hands. Senior can use them however you want. Xianjing said with a smile. "But..." Xiaohua looked at the Azure Ape Ho Ming and raised his hand. "I may have some karma with this Azure Ape. I want to borrow your sect's secret realm. I wonder if it's possible?" "Ah." Not to mention Immortal Xianqing and Xianjing. Even Ho Qing was stunned. Ho Qing stammered, "Immortal, he just entered Kunlun Mountain. How can he be fated with you?" "I only said it was possible. I'm not sure yet." Xiaohua looked at the darkness within the crack and said indifferently, "Perhaps we can only confirm it in your honorable sect's secret realm." Immortal Xianqing and Xianjing looked at each other. Immortal Xianqing nodded slightly and looked at Xiaohua. "Anyway, he is also my Kunlun sect's spirit beast. If Senior can bring him in, then do it." This is also a part of its fate. Thank you so much. As Xiaohua spoke, he raised his hand and waved it. A light and shadow flashed, and the azure ape Homing was already in his hand. He nodded at immortal Xianjing, and strode into the gap. The inside of the crevice was incomparably dark. It was different from an ordinary cave. Not even the slightest bit of light could shine in. Xiaohua walked for half a cup of tea's worth of time before an inexplicably terrifying aura appeared in front of him. Xiaohua knew that this was the immortal spiritual energy of a fragment of the immortal world. He had already seen it that day in the Star Moon Palace, so it was not unfamiliar to him. Xiaohua hesitated for a moment. He stretched out his hand and took out the Kunlun mirror. As the brilliance swayed, his mind rolled and took the azure ape Homing into the space. Outside the Kunlun secret realm, there would naturally be a formation set up by the Kunlun sect to prevent the cultivators of other sects from rashly breaking in. When the Kunlun sect leader entered the Kunlun secret realm, not only did he have to rely on the token to break the barrier of the fragment of the immortal world, but he also had to break the formation set up by the seniors. These three restrictions were extremely difficult, so the Kunlun sect did not have to set up any additional defenses near the Kunwu Peak. But for Xiaohua, these two extremely difficult things were not difficult at all. Xiaohua had just seen outside the fragment and understood that breaking this formation was as easy as turning over his hand for him. Sure enough, after several hand seals were cast, a golden light shot out like the sun, and a door appeared in the darkness. Rich, bright silver immortal spirit chi rushed out from the door, and this immortal spirit chi turned into a powerful tide-like aura above the boundary of the four great continents. After the Kunlun sect's restriction, there were no other restrictions. Because the Kunlun secret realm was originally a fragment of the immortal world, without the token of the Kunlun sect leader, ordinary cultivators could not even get close, let alone enter. Xiaohua looked at the bright silver brilliance inside. The same silver light appeared on his arms again. Although this silver light was thin and even dim, as soon as the silver light appeared, it immediately rushed toward the silver light of the secret realm, like a child who had not seen his mother for a long time. Xiaohua could naturally use the Kunlun sect's token to enter the Kunlun secret realm, but he was very clear in his heart that as long as he used the token, the karma between him and the Kunlun sect would increase by 1. Now Xiaohua really did not want to increase any more karma. The hand of karma within the space seemed to have been completed, but in reality, Xiaohua could only activate the hand of karma and obtain some extremely superficial results. Even when he activated the Buddhist sect's heavenly eye, he could only see the simple karma of samsara. He wanted to see more, but he couldn't. Therefore, Xiaohua was very clear in his heart that the way of karma was not something he could control now. Since he had ascended to the immortal world, he could no longer return to the four continents. His karma in the four continents must be completely settled, and he could not leave too much behind. Otherwise, it would definitely have a great impact on his cultivation in the future. Xiaohua already had this thought when he was in the 10,000 demon realm. Later on, he felt even more touched when he arrived at the Yilin continent. Now that he had arrived at the Dawn Rain continent, he felt a sense of relief and even his state of mind became clear. In particular, the three recent events made him understand that ascension was not only about strength exceeding the laws of heaven and earth of the four continents and being pushed away by the laws of heaven and earth, it was also the end of one self, annihilation, and the rebirth of another self. There should not be a lot of connections between these two selves. A little bit of karma in the four continents, a little bit of resentment, was very likely to set off a mighty hurricane in the immortal world in the future. This hurricane might be so big that it could drown him. The first thing was the broken dragon jade of Reverend Sun Lu of the Utopia faction. Xiaohua naturally did not know that the dragon jade was the result of Reverend Sun Li's self-destruction when he was fighting with the devil general in the Imperial Demon Valley. He had no choice but to self-destruct to injure the enemy and break through the void. It was Xiaohua who broke through the void, and the dragon jade coincidentally entered Xiaohua's space. After Xiaohua's soul search, he only knew that when he woke up, he saw that there was one more thing in the space. Even when he was cultivating in the four continents, he always thought that there was a mistake in his memory. This broken dragon jade was originally in his space, and he brought it from the immortal world. However, it was also in front of the disappeared Sky Patrol city that Xiaohua gave the simplest dragon transformation skill to Heng Heng on a whim. Heng Heng could tell at a glance that this might be the skill recorded in the dragon jade that Reverend Sun Le had in the past. At that time, Xiaohua did not hesitate at all. He knew in his heart that this was the time for him to end his karma. He did not ask Heng Heng anything and gave all the dragon transformation skill that could be cultivated by the human tribe to Heng Heng, and returned it to the Utopia faction. This was not for Li Zongbao's sake, nor for Heng Heng's sake, nor for Reverend Sun Li's sake. It was the way of heaven giving Xiaohua face by letting him end his first karma in the Dawn Rain continent, which was also a hidden karma. As for the second karma, it was naturally the emotional entanglement between Xiaohua and Hongxia Fairy. This karma was not as easy to end as other karmas. The emotional sacrifice could not be measured by any skill or spirit stones. Xiaohua had imagined many situations where he would reunite with Hongxia Fairy in the 3 continents. However, he had never thought that they would meet under such a dangerous situation as the 4 spirits' blood curse. He also did not expect that, when he had become the supreme master of the human tribe and returned as a king, Fairy Hongxia would choose to cut off their relationship. In Xiaohua's opinion, Fairy Hongxia's reason was really nonsense. It was because Xiaohua's strength was too high, and he had already stood at the peak of the human realm's cultivation. He was completely different from what Hongxia Fairy had imagined. Therefore, she felt that Xiaohua was already a stranger, and not the Xiaohua she had been thinking about. Therefore, she chose to cut off their relationship. However, in Xiaohua's eyes, he had not changed at all. Everything, except for his high cultivation, the addition of the Fortune Gate, and the addition of Princess Zixia, whom he had never mentioned before. At that time, Xiaohua was really disheartened. He felt that the feelings in his heart could not withstand the test of time. The change in his feelings was too sudden and too unimaginable. He did not dare to believe in love anymore. However, during the 10 days when Xiaohua helped Fairy Hongxia merge with the Phoenix bloodline, Xiaohua carefully thought about it. From his own point of view, from Fairy Hongxia's point of view, he thought about it a lot. He finally understood that Fairy Hongxia's words were not without reason. After all, Xiaohua was a male cultivator. He considered his relationship with Fairy Hongxia from a male cultivator's point of view. The so-called male cultivators, using a phrase from Confucian cultivators, could not abstain from lust. When meeting a female cultivator, the beginning of a relationship would always be related to lust. Before Xiaohua met Fairy Hongxia, he met Wuxia first. The reason why he did not have any emotional entanglements with Wuxia was, on one hand, Wuxia already had Li Zongbao in her heart. On the other hand, Wuxia had concealed her beauty, so Xiaohua did not have such thoughts. Of course, the love at first sight between Xiaohua and Fairy Hongxia couldn't deny that Fairy Hongxia's mole had a great connection with Xiaohua's distant memories. But at the same time, Fairy Hongxia's beauty also played a large role. If Fairy Hongxia's appearance was ordinary, Xiaohua couldn't guarantee that he would fall in love with Fairy Hongxia just because of a mole. After that, Xiaohua and Fairy Hongxia met at the Feather Immortal gathering. The two of them revealed their feelings for each other, and it could be considered as breaking through the window paper. If Xiaohua's cultivation was similar to Fairy Hongxia's, and the two of them had the opportunity to interact frequently, they could naturally rub each other's ears and develop deep feelings for each other. When the conditions were right in the frozen ice valley, the two of them would definitely be able to strengthen their relationship. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian. Vote for it, vote for it, vote for it, give it as a reward, and thank you for all your support. Chapter 52-27. After the Feather Immortal gathering, Xiaohua and Fairy Hongxia went their separate ways to train on their own. What happened in the Valley of Ice was too sudden. Even Xiaohua and Fairy Hongxia found it inconceivable. However, there were no conditions for their relationship to warm up. Their time in the Valley of Ice greatly shortened the pace of their relationship. This was normal in Xiaohua's eyes. However, Fairy Hongxia felt that it was a little rushed. After all, in the words of Confucian cultivators, female cultivators could not abstain from love. What female cultivators needed was love, not lust. Whether it was Fairy Hongxia or Shui, they gave the same amount of love. Shui sacrificed her life for Xiaohua. As for Fairy Hongxia, she said that if she was given the same choice, she would make the same choice as Xue Xue. However, the love in a female cultivator's eyes was different from that of a male cultivator. A female cultivator's love was built with time, built with care, and watered with every drop. The relationship between Xiaohua and Fairy Hongxia lacked these seemingly ordinary foundations. This was because even though Xiaohua had followed Fairy Hongxia for a period of time and experienced life and death situations, that experience was simply too short compared to the lifespan of a cultivator. It was so short that even though it was engraved in his bones, it was still not enough. It was also because of this that Fairy Hongxia thought hard every day when Xiaohua disappeared. She missed him so much that it became a disaster. However, Fairy Hongxia missed the Xiaohua of the past. The Xiaohua whose strength was close to hers, the Xiaohua who could laugh with her, the Xiaohua who lived in her memories. However, after 700 years, Xiaohua suddenly appeared and saved Fairy Hongxia from the Four Spirits' blood curse. At that time, Fairy Hongxia did not feel much because in her eyes, Xiaohua was still the Xiaohua of the past. He had not changed at all. He was no different from the Xiaohua she had been thinking about day and night. Therefore, she easily acted coquettishly with Xiaohua. However, the defeat of the Sword Cultivator, the destruction of the Punishment Array, the killing of the Book Immortal, the submission of the various sects, everything made Fairy Hongxia realize that Xiaohua had changed. This change was so huge that it made Fairy Hongxia feel unfamiliar. Facing Xiaohua, Fairy Hongxia felt as if she was facing the firmament. How could an ant have feelings for the firmament? Therefore, this dazzling and beautiful relationship that all the cultivators of the Dawn Rain continent thought had turned into nothingness in Fairy Hongxia's heart. Of course, Fairy Red Dawn still loved Xiaohua in her heart. However, this Xiaohua was the Xiaohua of the past. Fairy Red Dawn had obtained the blood essence of the Four Spirits' blood curse, as well as the inheritance of the Phoenix bloodline. Her cultivation had slowly increased, and with Xiaohua accompanying her day and night, it was not impossible for her feelings to become true. However, Xiaohua did not have the time. There was no need for Xiaohua to settle this karma. Fairy Hongxia would help him settle it. But was it so easy to end a relationship? The karma of that mole. Could it still continue in the immortal world? This would depend on Fairy Hongxia's luck. The path to heaven had already been paved under her feet, and she was ready to spread her wings and soar high. The third karma was naturally the karma between Xiaohua and Yuan Tongtian. That day, Yuan Tongtian had begged Xiaohua to bestow the Heaven's Reach staff to him as a weapon. Xiaohua had agreed on the spot that as long as Yuan Tongtian returned from nirvana scripture-seeking, he would give the Heaven's Reach staff to him. Unfortunately, Yuan Tongtian had been killed by the six-eared macaque. He did not wait for Xiaohua to deliver the Heaven's Reach staff to him. In order to make up for the six-eared macaque's transgression, the Mahavajrana Buddha had sealed Yuan Tongtian's soul into a five-colored spirit stone. He had promised Xiaohua that he would send Yuan Tongtian into the cycle of reincarnation to settle this karma with the six-eared macaque. However, that day in the Thunder Temple, Yuan Tongtian had called him master before he died. This karma had been left behind. Yuan Tongtian was no longer here, and Xiaohua's five elements Heaven's Reach staff had been refined. The Heaven's Reach staff could not be delivered to Yuan Tongtian. Xiaohua's karma could not be settled. Therefore, when Xiaohua saw the familiar flames of the Azure Ape Ho Ming, he immediately thought of the reincarnated Yuan Tongtian. However, Xiaohua also remembered that the Mahavajrana Buddha had said that he would let Yuan Tongtian's soul be nourished in the five-colored spirit stone to temper his arrogance. However, it had only been a few years, and the reincarnated Yuan Tongtian had appeared in the Dawn Rain continent, waiting for him to settle his karma in the Kunlun Mountains. The Mahavajrana Buddha was obviously perfunctory. That was why Xiaohua cursed the Mahavajrana Buddha. Because of the unsettled third karma, Xiaohua did not hesitate to bring the Azure Ape Ho Ming into the Kunlun secret territory. Because of the karma entangling him, Xiaohua did not dare to use the Kunlun sect leader's token, fearing that it would increase the karma. Seeing that the pressure at the entrance of the secret realm had decreased after he activated the immortal qi, Xiaohua smiled and stepped in. A silver light flashed in front of his eyes, and a heavy pressure like a mountain immediately fell on Xiaohua's body. Xiaohua's body sank, and he fell to the bottom of the secret territory. Under the heavy pressure, Xiaohua was unable to activate his true yuan, and was also unable to release the golden Buddha statue. Helpless, Xiaohua could only activate the immortal qi even more. As strands of immortal spiritual energy were activated, Xiaohua's body began to be covered in silver light. The pressure also gradually lessened. Xiaohua's figure also slowly came to a stop. There was even a feeling of floating immortality that came from his bones. Xiaohua understood that activating the immortal qi in the Dawn Rain continent was tantamount to drinking poison to quench thirst, but facing such a secret territory, he could only do so. However, when Xiaohua's body stopped, he raised his eyes to look ahead, and unconsciously became stunned again. Xiaohua had previously gone to the Folded Jade Legacy territory on the Dragon Island. He originally thought that this Kunlun secret territory was similar to the Folded Jade Legacy territory, and should be a colorful space, but everything in front of him was completely different from what he had imagined. But in front of Xiaohua's eyes was pitch black, and there was only a faintly discernible silver light in the distance, as distant as a star. The silver light from before had rushed out from nowhere. Xiaohua's divine sense, Buddhist awareness, and so on naturally couldn't be used. He had no choice but to activate them and walk towards the silver light. But after walking for more than 100 zhang, Xiaohua's heart was moved again. Looking at the indescribable pitch black, and looking at the silver light in the distance, one of them directly made him turn right. Damn it! Could it be that this secret territory also has a void bewildering formation? Xiaohua cursed in a low voice, and decisively turned right. He was very confident in his incomparable sense of direction in the void. Sure enough, when he turned around, that silver light was in front of him again. It was as bright as the morning star. After walking for about an hour, Xiaohua arrived in front of the silver light with great difficulty, but he saw that it was a light shadow that was like a willow tree. One after another, the light specks extended out from the long line of light, and swayed as they drooped down, just like willow branches in the wind. Those light specks looked like flickering fragments of light with the naked eye, and the silver splendor seeped out from the fragments of light, emitting an aura of varying strength. What was special was that the long silver line that extended out from an unknown place had segments of silver light rapidly flowing within it. Every time it flowed, there would be the sound of thunder, or the sound of tides, and occasionally, there would be the sound of mountains collapsing and the earth splitting. Xiaohua was dumbfounded. He walked in front of a silver willow catkin somewhat helplessly, and stretched out his hand to touch it. He saw that his hand had already brushed past the light shadow, but the light shadow was still there, seemingly unaffected. The light shadow was the light shadow, and the big hand was the big hand. They were completely distinct. Two spaces. Xiaohua already understood. Even if this silver light shadow was the Kunlun secret territory, it was in a different space from him. If he couldn't find the location of the space, he wouldn't be able to enter. Could it be? Xiaohua took out the command token from his bosom, and said with a frown, I still have to activate the command token? But there are so many willow catkins, that is to say, there might be so many Kunlun secret territory. Which one has the sacrificial refining method of the Kunlun mirror? And which one has the mystery of the immortal formation? Xiaohua tried to use his mind. Although there were some obstacles in the space, he could still sense it. He took out the Kunlun mirror, and when the Kunlun mirror fell into the space, there was no change. When Xiaohua's immortal qi landed on the Kunlun mirror also didn't have any reaction. Obviously, the immortal technique to activate the Kunlun mirror was different from the technique. Xiaohua put away the Kunlun mirror and the command token. He held his chin with his hand, and looked at the light shadow and pondered. Needless to say, this silver light shadow must be the fragment of the immortal world, and these trivial silver lights are the so-called Kunlun secret territory. Although Xianjing and Taoist Xianqing didn't say it clearly, this Kunlun secret territory came from nothing. It must have been set up by the seniors of the Kunlun sect since ancient times. Every silver light might have some spiritual items from the immortal world, just like the fragment of the Star Moon Palace. Although this Xiao already has immortal qi now, this is not the real immortal qi that has gone through the spirit cleansing pool, and can't enter the Kunlun secret territory at will. This Xiao can only activate the command token and let the immortal qi inside rush out. This Xiao can enter. The question is the immortal world like this? Is it a bright silver? What is the immortal world like? This kind of question. I'm afraid only Xiaohua could think of it. Not to mention the cultivators of the 4 great continents, even the immortal kings, immortal venerables, and great emperors of the immortal world might not think of it. Therefore this question was destined to have no answer. Xiaohua pondered for a moment, and raised his hand to take out the command token again. But the moment he was about to activate it, his heart moved again. He smiled slightly, and his mind fell into the spiritual realm of the space, and called out some spiritual bodies. Sure enough, the spiritual bodies were different from Xiaohua's physical body, and easily fell into the light shadow that was like the willow catkins. Ha ha! Xiaohua laughed, clapped his hands and said, "The heavens are really helping me." Immediately, Xiaohua let the spiritual bodies of the Ling clan come out, and they fell into different willow catkins. As these spiritual bodies fell into the willow at the same time, the whole willow branch gradually shook, as if it was bearing weight. The silver light overflowing on the willow branch became denser and denser, and the sound of thunder also became louder and louder. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe, give a monthly vote, a recommendation vote, a collection, a reward, and thank you for all forms of support. Chapter 52-28. Interesting. Xiaohua smiled. It turns out that spiritual bodies also have weight. This fragment of the immortal world is really mysterious. When the last spiritual body entered the Kunlun secret realm, Xiaohua thought for a moment and his mind entered the space. At this time, somewhere in Shenhua continent, the azure ape Ho Ming was excitedly climbing up and down a mountain peak, and his eyes were vigilantly looking around. This mountain peak was the same as Kunwu Peak of Kunlun Mountain. Jade Archive Xiaohua's figure landed on top of the azure ape Ho Ming's head and looked at him for a moment, then raised his hand and pointed. The azure ape Ho Ming's figure stopped as if he was imprisoned. Subsequently, Jade Archive Xiaohua formed a seal with both hands, and a huge karmic hand gradually formed in midair. Waves of inexplicable fluctuation spread out in all directions, and when the karmic hand was formed, it suddenly grabbed, and all the fluctuations suddenly contracted and fell into the huge hand. Boom! Xiaohua controlled the karmic hand to fall on the azure ape Ho Ming's body, but countless light shadows peeled off from the azure ape like layers of cocoons. However, in the eyes of Xiaohua, the azure ape was still the same azure ape, and there was no special change. Sigh. The Jade Archive Xiaohua sighed and retracted the hand of karma. He muttered, "The azure ape doesn't have any karma in Shenhua continent. Even if I have the power to reach the heavens, how can I see his karma in the 4 major continents?" Then Xiaohua withdrew the imprisonment, allowing the azure ape Ho Ming to jump on the mountain peak, and he went out of the space. While waiting for the spiritual bodies to return, Xiaohua thought about how to solve Yuan Tongtian's karma. After waiting for a few hours, the spiritual bodies gradually returned, and Xiaohua's mind fell into the space, receiving the spiritual bodies' gains in the Kunlun secret realm one by one. The spiritual bodies' gains were naturally rich, not only the refining method of the Kunlun mirror, but also many secrets of the Kunlun sect. In particular, Xiaohua actually obtained the refining method of the Tong Jiao shears. In addition to joy and shock, Xiaohua was a little regretful that there was no news of the immortal array in the Kunlun secret realm. However, Xiaohua also knew that with the strength of the Kunlun sect in the immortal world, the sect leader of the Kunlun sect must know the secret of the immortal array. Unfortunately, no one knew who the sect leader was or where the immortal world was now. Xiaohua recorded the method of refining and activating the Kunlun mirror and Tongjiao shears into the jade slip. He carefully put them away and then turned around. Going back was just as troublesome as going in. Xiaohua walked through another void maze before walking out of the silver door. Once he was out of the door, Xiaohua hastily withdrew his immortal qi. With a flash, he had already left Kunwu Peak. Arriving at an uninhabited place, Xiaohua released his divine sense to explore, then waved his hand and took out the azure ape Ho Ming from the space. At this time, the azure ape Ho Ming's eyes were closed and he was lying on the ground. Xiaohua sat down cross-legged and began to form seals with both hands. With each seal, the sound of ghosts and spirits began to appear. Strange ripples emerged from the azure ape Ho Ming's body like a wheel. Then, a huge shadow of a karmic hand began to appear above Xiaohua's head. This shadow was very faint, not as solid as the space. When the karmic hand took shape, Xiaohua did not rush to activate it. Instead, he raised his hand and patted his forehead, using the heaven's eye. Sure enough, the karmic hand's momentum was so great. With a clench of the big hand, countless ripples of light and shadow fell from all over the Dawn Rain continent. In an instant, the area within 100 miles was pitch black, and all kinds of strange phenomena appeared. When it fell on the Azure Ape Homing's body, the effect was short-lived. With the naked eye, one would only see a blurry light and shadow flowing through the Azure Ape Homing's body. Even if Xiaohua had achieved the body of law, he could not see what this light and shadow was. With the help of the heaven's eye, Xiaohua understood that this blurry light and shadow was a section of the River of Karma. Although the content of the River of Karma was not particularly clear, he could be sure that the Azure Ape Homing was not Yuan Tongtian. Just as he was feeling disappointed, at the end of the River of Karma, a familiar figure of Yuan Tongtian flashed and disappeared. Ha ha ha! Xiaohua laughed and slowly withdrew his magic power, dispersing the karmic hand. He looked at the Azure Ape Homing thoughtfully and said, "The hand of the heavenly Tao is indeed pervasive. The heavenly Tao wants me to use this Azure Ape Homing to settle my karma with Yuan Tongtian. Of course, this karma is the karma of the 4 great continents, but at the same time, it will also be the cause of the future." When he finished speaking, Xiaohua raised a hand and pointed, and a crystal light like a firefly fell between the Azure Ape Homing's eyebrows. When Xiaohua waved his hand and put the Azure Ape Homing into the space, he looked left and right, then disappeared into the ground. The ground was pitch black, and Xiaohua found a stable location before making a grabbing motion, creating a space that was only several tens of feet in size. Xiaohua tossed the sky-reaching staff and a few storage pouches into the space, then made a hand seal to seal the entire space. After doing all that, the ground returned to its original state, and even a Mahayana cultivator wouldn't be able to discover what was going on, let alone a normal cultivator. Xiaohua flew out of the ground, clapped his hands and looked down again, whispering, "Yuan Tongtian, Yuan Tongtian. I hope you can hold this Zhao's sky-reaching staff in your next life and be an indomitable hero." After that, Xiaohua disappeared into the wind. Xiaohua walked out of the gap of Kunwu Peak. It was already late, and the setting sun was hanging above the clouds like fresh oranges. Immortal Xianqing and Xianjing were naturally waiting on the peak. When they saw Xiaohua coming out, they hurriedly greeted him. Immortal Xianqing asked, "Immortal Xiao, how is the situation?" Xiaohua looked at everyone and then looked at the sky. He was in a good mood. He handed the token to Xianjing with a smile and said, "This Xiao didn't use it. I won't delay your Kunlun sect's next sect master's matter. Senior is really too sympathetic to my Kunlun sect." After Xianjing sighed with emotion, he felt a little guilty. He felt that Kunlun sect owed Xiaohua too much, so after receiving the token, he hurriedly asked, "Senior, did you find the method to break the innate array?" Xiaohua shook his head slightly and replied, "This Xiao's luck is bad. I couldn't find it, but I accidentally encountered the method to refine and activate the Kunlun mirror." "Congratulations, congratulations." Xianjing was very happy, as if he had obtained the secret technique himself, and hurriedly laughed. Xiaohua took out a jade slip and said with a smile, "After this Xiao copied it, I still left the jade slip in Kunlun's secret realm. Now I will also copy the cultivation method and leave it to Kunlun sect, right?" Immortal Xianqing was shocked and hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Immortal Xiao, please don't. The Kunlun mirror is now in Senior's hands. Senior can still leave the method to refine and use it in my Kunlun sect. This junior is already very grateful. At this time, how can I dare to ask for this secret technique?" "Fine." Xiaohua nodded and put away the blank jade slip. He said, "Then leave it for your Kunlun sect's fated sect leader to take it. This Xiao will no longer interfere." "Yes, yes." Xianjing smiled. After everyone finished speaking, Ho Qing timidly asked, "Spiritual Master Xiao, what about the Azure Ape?" "Hee." Xiaohua laughed and took out the Kunlun mirror. He sent the Azure Ape homing out and said with a smile, "This old man thought that he had some karma with me, but after entering the Kunlun secret realm, I found that I was wrong, so I didn't let him out at all. The azure ape homing landed, looked left and right and chirped, and then went to guard the gap. Xiaohua's heart moved. He took out a rejuvenation pill from the space and said with a smile, "This old man has disturbed you, this thing is for you." After saying that, Xiaohua flicked his finger and the rejuvenation pill fell into the azure ape homing's mouth. Before the azure ape homing could react, the rejuvenation pill had already turned into a stream and rushed into his body like lightning. He. The azure ape homing raised his finger, as if he wanted to say something, but there was a change in his throat and he couldn't say anything. Xiaohua smiled slightly and said, "This thing has some use for you. I hope you can cherish this opportunity." Then he looked at Ho Qing again, waved his hand and took out a peach of immortality and handed it to him, saying, "You are a disciple of the Kunlun sect. This Xiao can't give you anything, but since you called this Xiao a spiritual master, I can't treat you unfairly." Spiritual master Xiao. Ho Qing didn't expect Xiaohua to treat him like this. He was really grateful, but he still didn't reach out his hand. Instead, he looked at spiritual master Xianqing and Xianjing. Xianjing smiled and said, "You child, why don't you hurry to catch it? This is a gift from spiritual master Xiao, you can eat it." "Thank you, sect master." Ho Qing happily caught it. Without waiting for him to say anything, Xiaohua's figure flashed and rushed into the sky. He cupped his hands and said, "Fellow Taoist Xianqing, sect master Xianjing, the matter of the Kunlun sect has been settled. This Xiao is going to the Taiqing sect, goodbye." Spiritual master Xianqing was anxious and hurriedly flew up, shouting, "Senior, why are you in such a hurry?" Ha ha ha. At this time, Feng Wu and the others had already flown out. Xiaohua laughed and said, "This Xiao has destroyed your palace. I have no face to stay in the Kunlun palace any longer. Apologize to the disciples." After saying that, all the supremes tore through the void and escaped. Xianjing flew to the side of spiritual master Xianqing and looked at the ripples in the void. His face was full of regret, and he whispered, "Spiritual master Xiao is really..." At this point, Xianjing didn't continue. Spiritual master Xianqing nodded and said, "You are right, spiritual master Xiao is really spiritual master Xiao. The unparalleled spiritual master Xiao in the world. Other than admiration, this old man has no other distracting thoughts." Xianjing turned his head and looked at Ho Qing and the azure ape Ho Ming who were standing on the Kunwu peak. He didn't have the thought of interrogating them at all. He was very clear that Xiaohua did everything in front of him, and even if Xiaohua wanted to do something, it was impossible for him to find out. In particular, in Xiaohua's eyes, was Kunlun sect worthy of Xiaohua's backup plan? Spiritual master Xianqing had the same idea as Xianjing. They stood in the air for a moment and left together. Before leaving, Xianjing also shouted to Ho Qing, "This peach of immortality is used to make up for your lifespan. It is incomparably precious. Hurry up and eat it. Don't let anything happen." P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please go to Qidian to subscribe to support. Vote for a month. Vote for a recommendation, collect, reward. Thank you for all forms of support. Chapter 52-29. Seeing Xianjing leave, Ho Qing hurriedly ate the peach. Feeling the fresh changes in his body, Ho Qing couldn't help but kneel down and kowtow again. Ho Qing kowtowed and the azure ape Ho Ming followed suit. When the man and monkey got up, Ho Qing smiled and said, "You evil creature. What did you encounter when you went with spiritual master Xiao?" The azure ape marquis blinked his eyes and scratched his head. There seemed to be something in his mind, but he couldn't remember it. Unable to hold it in any longer, the azure ape marquis cried out, "Yes, yes." When Ho Qing heard this, he could not help but exclaim in shock, You can speak? Ha ha ha, I understand. This is the opportunity spiritual master Xiao mentioned. Roar. Ha, ha. The azure ape Ho Ming also imitated Ho Qing's roar and sat down on the boulder. Xiaohua had planted a seed in him, and it was unknown when this seed would germinate, or when it would fall into the reincarnated Yuan Tongtian's body. Xiaohua, his doppelgangers, and Ing Kuei fell into the void, but after flying for a while, they encountered another spatial fault. They had to fly out of the void. Xiaohua released his divine sense for a moment and asked, "Senior, this junior didn't encounter such a spatial fault in the 3 continents, not even in the Yilan continent. Why does Xiaoyu continent have one?" Inkue smiled. The spatial laws of each world are different, and the stability of space is not uniform. It's not strange for Xiaoyu continent to have a spatial fault. This old man remembers that under a star field of the heavenly court, there was a continent whose space was like a terrace field. It was impossible to teleport, let alone escape. When you were refining the 5 elements wishful heaven cudgel, this old man also noticed that the laws of heaven and earth were somewhat different in the spatial fault. Your 5 elements magnetism had 2 distortions, and the law of thunder that was triggered by the cudgel should be perfectly round, but there were some distortions and fractures here. Oh, Xiaohua responded, then remembered something and asked, Senior, have you ever been to the immortal world of Dao cultivation? After Xiaohua finished speaking, he smiled bitterly again. Didn't Inkue meet Suji and Fairy Xingyue in the star area of the Dao immortal world? Inkue also felt a little embarrassed and asked, Of course I have. Why do you suddenly ask about this? Xiaohua recounted what he saw at Kunwu Peak. In the end he said, So Junior wants to know what is the true immortal world like? Inkue smiled and asked, What do you think the real immortal realm should look like? Could it be that you've seen a different immortal realm? Inkue paused for a moment, then immediately rested his eyes on Reverend Yun. Suddenly he was enlightened and said, I get it now. This little friend of yours has formed his body in the fragment of the dragon realm, right? Reverend Yun nodded and said proudly, The dragon realm fragment I saw with fellow Taoist Xiao is different from the immortal realm fragment he mentioned. Inkue pondered for a moment, then shook his head and said, I can't answer you. I'm afraid we'll have to ask Emperor Tianhuang's other avatar. Xiaohua faintly smiled and declined to comment. Inkue also didn't intend to listen to Xiaohua's reply, so he immediately said, Little friend Xiao, you shouldn't think too much about the immortal world right now. The immortal qi in your body has become even denser, and this old man's emperor's armor will soon be unable to block the lightning tribulation. Xiaohua sighed and said, Junior has no other choice. I don't want to be involved in too much karma with Kunlun sect. Oh, Inkue was taken aback. He looked at Xiaohua from head to toe and said, How do you know you have too much karma with Kunlun sect's disciples? Could it be that you have found something in the Kunlun mystic realm? Xiaohua smiled and said, Senior, you misunderstood me. What I mean is that I don't want to be involved in too much karma with other sects before I ascend. But speaking of which is Kunlun sect. Very famous in the immortal realm where I cultivate? Hehe. Inkue smiled and did not say anything. The spatial fault near Kunlun Mountain was extremely large. Xiaohua and the others flew for half an hour before they passed through this fault. Then they used their spatial escape technique at the same time. When they flew out of the void again, they saw 3 mountain peaks standing in front of them. For a moment, Xiaohua seemed to see the conversation between the 2 people on the flying boat 1,000 years ago. It is said that when heaven and earth first opened, there was a massive chaos, and a saint was born from the chaos. The entire chaos was split open, and Yangqing was the sky. Yinqing was the earth, and later heaven and earth were afraid of being reunited. The saint created heaven, earth and man, 3 peaks to support heaven and earth. The 3 peaks of Taiqing sect, heaven, earth and man, boasted that they were the pillars of heaven that supported heaven and earth. And Taiqing sect itself was divided into heaven, earth and man, respectively located on the 3 peaks. Since it is the pillars of heaven that support heaven and earth, we just need to fly up and see if there is a peak on this mountain. This idea is simple, but do you think the cultivators of Taiqing sect would not think of it? Could it be that this is really the pillars of heaven? But disciple thinks that even if they want to support heaven and earth, it is impossible for them to gather together, right? Wouldn't it be better if they were scattered? When did this old man say that this is the pillars of heaven? This is just Taiqing sect boasting. Who would believe it? As for whether the 3 peaks of heaven, earth and man have a peak, I'm afraid only the cultivators of Taiqing sect know. Won't we know if we fly up and take a look? That day Zhenqing told Xiaohua the reason for the 3 peaks of heaven, earth and man, and Xiaohua also wanted to fly up and take a look. At that time, Qi Refinement Cultivator Xiaohua was following Golden Core Cultivator Zhenqing to Taiqing sect to participate in the Feather Immortal Gathering. Today, Xiaohua came to Taiqing sect for the second time, not to fulfill his long-cherished wish, but to topple the three peaks of heaven, earth, and man that he saw as the pillars of heaven. This is Taiqing sect, right? Just as Xiaohua was in a daze, Ying Kuei frowned and looked into the distance, somewhat puzzled. Little friend Xiao, are you mistaken? This mountain is actually the key to breaking the formation? Xiaohua nodded solemnly. Indeed. I've obtained some secret information that points directly to the three peaks of heaven, earth, and man. Then just topple it directly. Ying Kuei rolled his eyes and said with a smile, didn't I set up a punishment formation to trap you previously? That punishment formation is passed down from the heavenly court. Won't you be able to break it if you topple it? No matter how powerful this formation is, it might not be stronger than the punishment formation of the heavenly court, right? Xiaohua didn't tell him the truth about the three great immortal formations of Buddhism, Taoism, and Demon. He only smiled and said, if it's as Senior said, why would I need to make such a big fuss? Just as they were talking, a divine sense swept over from afar and landed on Xiaohua and the others. It immediately retracted in panic. Not long after, two cultivators in Taoist robes flew over in a hurry. The one in front wasn't Taoist Yuqing of Taiqing sect, but a void refinement realm old man with white hair and beard. The old man looked a little excited and his eyes flickered. When he flew closer, he hurriedly bowed and said, Junior Huanhua apologizes to Taoist Xiao. Xiaohua understood as soon as he heard it. As the deputy leader of the Immortal Alliance, Taoist Huanhua of Taiqing sect must have colluded with Luo Xingtian. He must have heard that Xiaohua had killed Luo Xingtian and scared Jifengzi to death. That was why he deliberately waited at the mountain gate of Taiqing sect and personally apologized to Xiaohua. Xiaohua was actually not very interested in Luo Xingtian's scheme. After all, these were the internal struggles of Tao cultivators. If Luo Xingtian didn't meddle with the Thunder Control sect, he might not have taken action. Therefore, before killing Luo Xingtian, Xiaohua didn't interrogate him about the reason, nor did he search his soul before killing the last strand of primordial spirit of Luo Xingtian. It was just an accident that Jifengzi was scared to death. Jifengzi cherished his life too much. Therefore, when he saw Taoist Huanhua apologizing, Xiaohua helped him up with a smile and said, Fellow Taoist Huanhua, please get up. Who doesn't make mistakes in life? Since you know that you are wrong, you should correct yourself. As the saying goes, if you know your mistakes and can correct them, it is the greatest virtue. Yes, yes. Taoist Huanhua said with a smile. I know. When I received Luo Xingtian's message that day, I was already aware of his conspiracy, so I kept delaying it. But I didn't have much time left, so I couldn't help but fall into his trap. But fortunately, Taoist Xiao came back and killed Luo Xingtian, killing his ambition to unify the Dawn Rain continent. Xiaohua said with a smile, what's done is done. Fellow Taoist, you don't need to mention it again. I came here today for the sake of the billions of living creatures in the three continents. If you can help me, my previous mistakes are not worth mentioning. I'm sorry. Enlightened Master Huanhua finally relaxed, but he said apologetically, I didn't go to Sky Patrol City. When I received the message from Yuqing, I immediately ordered my disciples to search for the ancient records in the sect. However, until today, I still haven't found any information related to the Khanate formation, nor have I found any information about the origin of the three peaks of Taiqing sect. Xiaohua frowned and asked curiously, Taiqing sect is divided into Heaven sect, Earth sect, and Human sect. They have been separated for many years. Is there no information at all? Yuqing, who was behind Taoist Huanhua, flew a few steps forward and said in a low voice, reporting to Taoist Xiao, when we learned about the three peaks, we thought that Taiqing sect was lucky to be able to guard this place. That's what the previous sect masters told their disciples as well. It wasn't until the senior pointed out that the three peaks were related to the Khanate formation that the Grand Elder personally led the disciples to search the records that we found out that the Taiqing sect wasn't built here when it was first built. Later on, the Taiqing sect grew so powerful that the original mountain couldn't accommodate it. One of the seniors of the Taiqing sect discovered the strangeness of the three peaks and moved the Taiqing sect here. Xiaohua said with slight disappointment, I understand now. In other words, there were the heaven, earth, and mortal peaks first, and then there was the Taiching sect. So the Taiching sect doesn't know the secrets of the heaven, earth, and mortal peaks? Taoist Yuan Qing looked at Taoist Huan Hua, and both of their faces showed bitterness. After all, they had always used hypocrisy to decorate their nobility. They never thought that there would be a day when reality would shatter their hypocrisy. P.S. Fellow Taoists who like this book, please subscribe to it at Qidian. Vote for it, give it a tip, and thank you for all your support. Chapter 5230. Haha. Xiaohua looked at them and smiled. I'm sure you don't want to leak this information, right? That's right. Huan Hua hurriedly replied. This information is recorded in an old jade slip, and it's in my hands now. Taiching sect has sacrificed the foundations of heaven, earth, and human sex for the 3 continents. How could I let them be hurt again? Xiaohua said. Not to mention that whether the Sky Clear sect was established on the heaven, earth, and mortal peaks or moved here from somewhere else is a secret of your Sky Clear sect, and it has nothing to do with us. Fellow Taoists, please don't worry. Only the few of us know about this matter, and will absolutely not allow anyone to know. Thank you so much, enlightened Master Xiao. Huan Hua was grateful from the bottom of his heart. He brought enlightened Master Yuqing here because of Xiaohua's words. It's all right. Xiaohua waved his hand. This is what I should do. I just don't know what the disciples of Taiching sect think. Huan Hua hurriedly smiled. You don't have to worry about this. When the disciples of Taiching sect learned about the battle in Sky Patrol City and understood that we sacrificed heaven, earth, and human peaks for the sake of the billions of lives in the 3 continents, their blood was boiling. They were willing to give up their lives, let alone move the foundations of Taiching sect. Good. Xiaohua clapped his hands. The disciples of Taiching sect are of noble character. Taiching sect has sacrificed so much. I thank Taiching sect on behalf of the billions of lives in the 3 continents. Although the disciples of the Taiching sect were rather vain and Xiaohua felt disdain in his heart at first, when he heard that they could so decisively abandon their foundation and relocate the Taiching sect for the 3 continents, Xiaohua couldn't help but feel respect in his heart. After he finished speaking, he bowed and saluted. This salute was sincere. Huan Hua's face lit up. After all, this was a bow from the supreme of the human race. How many people in the world could receive such honor? He humbly bowed back and said, Senior, you're too kind. This is what Taiching sect's disciples should do. The 2 of them stood up. Xiaohua once again took out a storage pouch and handed it over to Taoist Yuqing, saying, A sect's relocation sounds simple, but the process is complicated. There are also many losses involved. Since I, Xiao, represent the 3 continents, then I ask Taiching sect to accept this compensation. That's not appropriate. Taoist Yuqing hurriedly waved his hand and said, Earlier at the Sky Patrol City, Senior has already given. That was given by this Xiao. Xiaohua says with a smile, This was given by the 3 continents. Quickly accept it. Inside is this old man's token. When you establish your sect, you can use this token to contact my fortune gate. The Taiching sect is the same as the Kunlun sect. Both are allies of my fortune gate. Grand Elder. Taoist Yuqing looked at Taoist Huan Hua and asked in a low voice. Enlightened Master Huan Hua pondered for a moment and nodded. Since it's enlightened Master Zhao's kindness, I'll accept it. After all, there are still many disciples who are unwilling to move. These compensations can be used as an explanation to them. Yes, I understand. Spiritual Master Yuqing took the storage pouch and scanned it with his spiritual will. His face turned pale and he hurriedly passed the storage pouch to Spiritual Master Huan Hua without saying anything. Ah! Spiritual Master Huan Hua was naturally stunned and looked at Taoist Yuqing in confusion. After all, Xiaohua had already given some things to the Taiching sect, and Spiritual Master Huan Hua had already snatched those things away. Taoist Yuqing did not answer Spiritual Master Huan Hua's question. Instead, he looked at Xiaohua and said, Enlightened Master Xiao, this is too valuable, right? Spiritual Master Huan Hua hurriedly released his spiritual will, and when he saw the things inside the storage pouch, he was also shocked speechless. Xiaohua looked at Taoist Yuqing and said, This Xiao once heard a saying in the secular world, gold or silver nest is not as good as one's own doghouse. Others might be able to help me find some clues to break the formation, but your Tai Ching sect has truly paid a price. You have given up your own sect's foundation. Your Tai Ching sect is the true hero. All of my compensation cannot compare to what you've paid. These things are indeed not much, take them first. In the future, the most important thing is to support each other and develop together with the Fortune Gate. Yes, yes. Taoist Master Huan Hua was so touched that he almost shed tears of gratitude. He was ashamed of his collusion with the starfall sky. This Xiao doesn't have much time. Xiao Hua patted Spiritual Master Huan Hua's shoulder to comfort him and said, I'll have to trouble the two of you to bring us to the Tai Ching sect. Okay. Spiritual Master Huan Hua hurriedly passed the storage pouch to Spiritual Master Yu Qing and gestured for him to keep it well. Then he respectfully led Xiao Hua and the others to the